of the 196th Cowes Week Regatta, presented by Visit Abu Dhabi. It's Youth Day today, so let's get off the dock and get on with the Musto morning briefing. Good morning, Lawrence Mead, and we're day 5 already.
I know, it goes quickly, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
It seems to come at you slowly, and then the first couple of days it seems like it's going to go on forever, and all of a sudden we're in day 5.
Well, just to review yesterday, the clouds finally parted and it was a lovely sunny afternoon, but some interesting starts.
Yes, I mean Cowes Week is meant to be interesting and we had some interesting starts, and we're going to do something different again today, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, good day yesterday. It's always difficult for us to get the length of the course right. We set the courses quite early in the day, although, you know, obviously as late as we can towards the start time. But we are very dependent on what actually happens with the wind, and you know we've spent a lot of time with Fiona looking at her weather models. Well, I don't, because I don't understand them, but she does. And we're constantly talking what's happening, what's going to happen, and we make our best guess. But yeah, I think it was a great day. I think everyone's very happy.
Certainly very entertaining for us ashore. A few rocks were discovered.
A few rocks were discovered, including that one I saw on screen with the drone footage. Sorry to that Contessa 32 and the commentator's curse, yes.
Well, it's entertaining for us all, but everyone was fine, safe and happy, and no problems?
Yeah, absolutely. We did have a Flying 15 go down, unfortunately, which is currently anchored on the Bramble Bank, literally on the bottom of it. So there is an orange race mark out there, which I hope people will not get confused about. It's marking the wreck. It's difficult balance for us. Again, you know, we try to make it a challenge, and going up the green has been done for 196 years. I've done it myself. I've been on those rocks on my Etchell with my son, so I know they're there. But if we stop doing it, I think we'll lose a lot out of our sport. So if you do go aground on it, my apologies, but the rocks are still in place every year.
They certainly are. They don't move. Well, you can try and move them. Okay, Fiona, let's look at what's happening with the weather then.
So we still have low pressure today, hence all this cloud. It's actually been good for our racing breeze because it's kept it pretty stable. The low is far to the north, but we've still got a southwesterly wind. It's very light just off the squadron here, isn't it, this start line? But don't be deceived. As soon as they're around the corner, they're back into around 14 to 16 knots. So quite a lot lighter than yesterday, but a similar wind angle. And that southwesterly is going to fill in across all the race areas very nicely. Not really looking at a lot of change this morning, but the sunshine will come back this afternoon. Once these fronts go through.
I think you said that yesterday, and I think I was cold most of the afternoon.
It did come through. It was a beautiful evening. But yes, so same again, waiting for the cloud to go through, but keeping the southwesterly wind and some sunny spells later.
Good. Well, Fiona Campbell, thanks. Keep us updated right throughout the morning here on the commentary. Lawrence, just look ahead to what's happening today.
Well, Youth Day today. We had 2 choices on the race strategy today. It's low tide. Tide's coming in, so it's coming down the shore here. We do go up the beach a lot, and I'm a bit of a fan of it. I know others are. But we just felt with it being low tide and to get some more variety, and we would go with a change. So all downwind starts today from the Royal Yacht Squadron, except for the XOD class. So we will reverse the start line just before the XODs go off at 12, whatever the time it is. But at the beginning of the day, you're going to have a multitude of starts downwind with spinnakers right off the Royal Yacht Squadron line, which I think should be great to watch.
Yes, absolutely. All down to timing and the tactician, presumably.
Yes, we've sent a little note. I hate it when race officers say, don't forget the tide is going left to right, etc. The competitors know which way the tide is going, but I did try to form a set of words that says, we've got a camera. If you're over, we'll catch you. Please don't be over. So let's see how much of my words they follow and how much they don't.
Okay, Lawrence, thanks for that. We're going to come back and show off our lovely trophy a bit later on. But firstly, let's look back at yesterday. The classes of the day were Contessa 32s, and firstly, Jerry Hill NHP 30.
Now, when we were watching the HP 30s blast downhill, one of the boats that we were watching was Jerry Hill on Moral Compass. It looked like a hell of a ride downhill today.
It's been great all week. I mean, it wasn't as windy as we thought it was going to be today, but it was, you know, still doing 17, 18 knots and quite puffy, which makes it, you know, entertaining. It's really important to find the puffs and find the tide today, and we didn't do it very well for part of it, but got back into it, and yeah, it was a proper Cowes Week dust-up today with navigation problems, with tankers, with all kinds of stuff going on. But, yeah.
We did watch that down at the Leeward Mark. It did look rather odd with boats going, not really sure which way to go around the mark.
Yes, some of the fleet ahead of us went the wrong way around it. We pointed out the error of their ways to them, and we went around. So good on our guys for you know, being quite conclusive that they'd done it wrong, and which is a hard one for the navigator when you see 3 boats go around the wrong way. But you have to stick to your convictions, and so we had that, and then we had this issue with the supertanker later, where we clearly couldn't get across its bow, and we were just sort of sitting there with our sails flapping, waiting for it to get past us, and the rest of the fleet caught up with us. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Typical Cowes Week, as you said. Tell us a bit about the HP30 class, because this, I guess it's been around for a little while, but it's interesting because in a world where we've got more and more one designs around, this isn't a one design rule, is it?
No, it's a sort of collection of similar sized and similar type of boat. So they're all bowsprit, asymmetric type boats, and there's several different designs that can do well. And I think we've got 5 different designs here this week, and yeah, it's fun, you know.
And tell us how you got on today in the end, after you'd avoided a supertanker and told the rest of the fleet to go around and mark the right way.
We got second in the end, and we'd been a lot deeper than that for a lot of the day. So that was really a question of just hanging on in there and trying not to make mistakes. And luckily, the other boats in the fleet did make the mistakes. So you know, never give up, because your opportunity might come.
Yeah, well, there are Moral Compass in the lead overall at the moment in the HP30 class, so very good for Jerry Hill. The other class, and one of the most exciting pictures I saw from the drone yesterday, was Blanco going rolling downwind on the far side of the courses here, and an amazing roll they had too. Let's hear from the Contessa 32, Blanco.
So here they are, the winners in the Contessa 32 class, owner and skipper Ray Rouse. First of all, well done. That was quite a lively race in places, wasn't it?
Well, it certainly was very hard work, and fresh breeze, and it's all quite a question of, it's all over at the start, quite honestly. It was very, very difficult at the start with the wind dropping and a foul flood tide sweeping all the boats back off the squadron line, which was very heavily biased to windward on the squadron end. So it was a difficult start for everybody, and even us weren't on the line at the gun, but we were much further up than the rest of the fleet, and once we were away it wasn't too difficult to keep everybody covered and plod around the course.
Yeah, well, it certainly looked that way. We caught up with you a little bit later on when you were going downwind to, not the penultimate mark, but the last downwind leg. Right. And I have to admit, having a little bit of a smile watching you going into that leeward mark, thinking, goodness, I'm old enough to remember that was the way we used to always go downwind, like a metronome. It looked quite nerve-wracking at times.
Yeah, but the Contessa's long-keeled, so when she puts in these death rolls, it's still very controllable. It looks awful, but you've got to sail quite badly to let the boat broach. So we didn't do any broaching today. We did a lot of death rolls, which gets everybody quite excited. But as long as you strap everything down tight, it's all quite controllable.
How long have you had Blanco?
Oh dear, must be coming out to 40 years. I've stopped counting now. I'm just beginning to get the hang of things, yeah.
Well, it certainly looked like it. What do you like most about the Contessa 32?
Well, these conditions. It's just such a lovely boat to sail. Going upwind, it just knifes its way through everything. It's very, very stable. Very wet, being so narrow-gutted, but it doesn't get thrown around so much as the lightweight flyers. So it's a very, very comfortable boat to sail upwind, and even in light airs, it's a pleasure to sail. And it's a very good weight carrier. That's why we carry a full keg of real ale with us all the time. We don't worry about weight. There's some boats in the class strip everything out that they can within the rules, but it is essentially a cruiser racer.
Yes, very much a cruiser racer there with the beer on board as well. So they didn't put the kettle on at windward mark, they opened the beer barrel. Isn't that nice for Cowes Week? Look, 83-year-old there, Ray House and Blanco, showing off how it's doing and the death roll. So let's bring it up to date. It's the Youth Day today, and Matt Sheen, of course, goes out with the dock walk. Let's find out where he is.
Well, good morning. It's day 5 and the breeze is still up, which is good news. And we're down here in the Haven once again. And as always, it's buzzing down here, deep in Carbon City. Now, the person I want to come and have a quick chat to, if I can find him, is Freddie Carr. Hey, Freddie.
Hello. How are you?
You all right, mate?
Good. And you?
Yeah, good to see you. How's it been going?
It's been good, actually. I mean, there's been plenty of wind kicking about, which has been good fun. And even on the light wind day, we had a good sea breeze by the end of the day. Been in the east, been in the west. Really close racing on a fast 40 Kumbu. Racing 3 other fast 40s and a couple of 37 footers and a 46 footer.
Right.
And it's proper good racing. Yeah, great fun.
Good. I should have started by saying that you're in Class 0. And that's why I sort of come to have a chat, really, because we're featuring the Class 0 today. And we're getting close to some of the bigger trophies this week, aren't we, in this class?
Absolutely. And when you sort of see Cows Week on the horizon, you obviously want to do well throughout the week. But we know that there's a few big days of racing coming up where you can win some proper nice pots. So it was mentioned in yesterday's debrief that the big ones are coming up, and all the boys and girls are pretty fired up for that. It's going to be good racing.
And it looked like a bit of fun yesterday, the downwind legs. You had some nice long downwind legs where you could stretch your legs.
Yeah, that was great. We went all the way down to the forts and down to Portsmouth, and close racing all the way, which is great, and some sort of a bit of orienteering around the Solent, you know, going around marks that you only go around once a year. But no, we're having a great time, and we've got a really sort of good crew on board, real mixed crew, which is what Cows Week's about again, and we're having a cracker.
I guess the only downside was you didn't quite manage to beat the boss yesterday.
That was a little bit annoying. I must say, I knew he was here for the Athena, the project launch for the youth and the females moving forwards. I didn't know he was racing until he wound up next to us on the start line, and I was like, oh man, that's annoying.
Split loyalty.
Yeah, there you go. We could have given him a luff, but maybe we should have. But the next meeting a bit awkward.
What we should say, that anybody who's wondering what the hell we're talking about, was Ben Ainsley was on Fargo yesterday, which is in the same class, and of course Freddie is a long-term member of the British America's Cup team, so it's probably best to let the boss get an upper hand every now and then, isn't it, really? Yeah. Alrighty, well, good luck today. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, take care.
Right, now, I heard a little rumour that yesterday one particular boat had a bit of a lucky escape, but we'll just go and see if we can find them to find out a bit more. It's just down here. I can see Jamie Lee down here. Oh, there we go. Hi, Jamie.
Hiya.
How you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good to see you. Just first of all, I haven't told the story yet.
Oh, yeah.
So you're on Cape 31,
Yes,
Gellert, and you had a bit of a lucky escape yesterday.
We did, yeah. We were going upwind on port, and luckily we had a call from one of our competitors to say that our cap shroud had parted company from the leeward side of our mast, and if we'd have tacked, basically the rig would have just come tumbling down, and that would have been our week over. So we managed to find out. We dropped the sails immediately, put some halyards down on that side to shore up the mast, and then motored to Hamble on port, and managed to fix it, and we're back out again today. So lucky escape.
Yeah, it was indeed. Yeah. Good stuff. Now today looks quite exciting because there's a rumour that the starts are going to be downwind, down tide with the kite up.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. So that'll be whether we push it and try and put the kite up early so you're flat out and hit the line as close as you can, or you be a bit more conservative and hold back, but make sure the kite is set and you're going flat out, on the line. But if you get it wrong, it's going to be pretty costly.
Yeah, well, I'll be sitting out on the pin end. I'll be looking forward to that, actually. Yeah. All right, well, good luck, and keep the rig above the boat.
We will.
Okay, good stuff. Cheers, Jamie. Thanks. Well, there we go. So I think it's going to be an interesting day today because, as I say, the breeze is up, but we've got a change of sort of scenery in effect in that they are sailing, sounds like they're going to be starting downwind and down tide, and as Jamie says, that's quite tricky to get the timing right, but it's also classic Cows Week. That's why we've come.
Yeah, classic Cows Week. Thanks, Matt, down in the pontoons there. He's now going to shimmy his way off to the commentary boat as he goes out. So, look at this. Joe, and Lawrence. This is the Britannia Trophy, being raced for by RSC 0 and 01 today.
Yes, this is the Britannia Cup. It's one of the most prestigious trophies at Cowsweek. It's actually one of the younger ones. It's only a 1950 trophy, but it was presented by the King to the Royal Yachting Association and named the Britannia Cup. It's raced for by IRC 0 and IRC 1 combined, and then there's another trophy for the other class that doesn't win overall out of those two. And there's some great names on here, Steve, and I actually did notice that one of the names on here was navigated by a certain Steve Ansell.
Yes, that was a long time ago.
So the winner was navigated by our host. That means we've got proper talent. But I also have to put my glasses on and just peek down here because 1973, Prospect of Whitby, Arthur Slater, Battle Cry, John Prentice. Some of these are the great names of boat racing up and down the Solent, including Sir Maurice Lang, actually, also won it, who, of course, built and made a huge contribution to charity with Cowes Yacht Haven, integral part of putting Cowes Yacht Haven together.
Yes, and slightly more up to date, of course, Fargo.
Indeed,
Bob
yeah,
Bickett.
Bertie Bickett, who's had a couple of firsts this week. I think that was back in when he had a Swan 42, but he'll certainly be hoping to get a hat-trick of names on the Britannia Cup today.
Right, that's the trophy they're racing for. So, the most important thing is, and navigators are the ones that count, don't cross the line before.
Yes, you and I have just been looking at Van Uden doing a timed run without the spinnaker down towards the pin end, and she shot across the start line with the tide under her. So no doubt the big issue today is don't be over, but anybody who comes back and tells me that there was a problem because they were over because of the tide, my sympathy level is going to be 0. The tide is going from the left to the right for everybody.
Yep, no excuses.
Well,
we've seen a few timed runs out there already, so they are on the ball.
They're on the ball, but it is really fast. Amazing how quickly they're getting down. Once we see spinnakers going up, they're going to fly down. But we're also trying, for the first time, a gate at the leeward mark. So for a couple of the classes, I actually don't know all of which classes, but for some of them, we've written in a new sailing instruction that allows us to create a gate down there to hopefully get rid of some of the congestion. So instead of having one mark to go around, they've got two set up as a classic leeward gate that we're all used to from Winwood Lewin Racing. So excited to bring that to Cowsweek as an adaptation of the race instructions.
Certainly is innovation here at Cowsweek. Well, it's Youth Day. We're going to be watching and keeping an eye on some of the youth sailors. We'll go through who's in the lead at the moment. But that's about it for the Musto morning briefing. It's time for changing our hats into commentary mood. Oscar and I will be back after this.
2, 1.
And good morning, Steve Ansell here in the chair along with Oscar Mead, and we're down there on the far end of the battlements here at the squadron, and that's us watching what's happening because we're counting down to the 5-minute warning gun for the start of IRC 0 and IRC 1, who are racing for that lovely Britannia trophy, Oscar, which is a little larger than yesterday's trophy, we have to say.
It is a little larger than yesterday's trophy, and just as we panned across that shot there, you can see all of the boats staying left of tide, staying left of picture here. Tide, don't forget, sweeping left to right across the shot, as Lawrence mentioned in the morning briefing there. So everybody's going to be desperately trying to stay up tide, not that much breeze, as Fiona mentioned in the weather briefing, really quite light off the squadron.
Yes, very much so, and lots of tide, as you can see on that outer distance mark. We've got a minute and a half before the first warning signal, so let's just take a look at the schedule for the day, if you like, and that's what's coming up. At 10:30, we have IRC 0 and IRC 1 joined together. Then the exciting Cape 31, so we should see them time their run on the plane with the Jenicas up at 10:35. 10:40 is the IRC 2, 10:45 IRC 3. And then we have Performance Cruiser A's at 10:55, HB 30s, IRC 4, J109s, IRC 5, SB 20s, J70s down the list. Normally they're first away, so they've got to be patient. Then we have some of the White Group Etchells, Darings and Dragons getting underway on the squadron line. And then Flying 15s, Sonars, Red Wings, Solent Sunbeams, Squibs and CV Mermaids and Victories. All classic Solent classes. And finally, allowing 10 minutes to get a bit of a change around because there the XODs are starting the other way. As we look out from the squadron, they're going from right to left, but into the tide. Everyone else is heading to the east. This is Dark and Stormy, and Dark and Stormy is currently leading overall in IRC Class 3. Ian Atkins' boat, only third yesterday, but they are 1 point after 4 races ahead of Schuss, and then Fargo, Bertie Bickett, is on 12 points, so they've got a bit of time to catch up. However, looking at that, they were first yesterday with Sir Ben aboard. Had to be really.
Having an Olympian on board certainly helps. IRC Class 0 rather than 3, but
yes.
Excellent week for Dark and Stormy. Had a very competitive year this year, so not surprised to see them doing well here at Cowswick.
Quite slack at the breeze at the moment.
Look at them navigating through. They're just trying to stay in the middle of the race pre-area up here to the left of the start line. And you can see the boats. Look at the tide sweeping down. Everybody trying to go, at the moment, upwind, stay on the safe side of the line. We've talked about this quite a lot in the last couple of days, about the cost of going back, being over at Cowswick, being quite high. Today, that cost is incredibly painful, so it's going to be a case of do not be over at all costs.
All right, there's Van Uden, speedy boat, and Matt is sped out to the outer distance line. Matt, what's happening at your way with that tide?
Well, there's plenty of it, that's for sure. Back out here, as you say, out at the pin end of the line, and plenty of tide sweeping to the east. And what's been very noticeable this morning is just how far up tide people are going to just give themselves some runway. They're going to need plenty of it as they come down to the start line.
Yes, they're a long way to the west. So down to pressure on the tactician and the skipper. But as Lawrence said, there's no excuse. The tide is the tide. And if you get it wrong, you're going to have a real painful beat back. We're looking at Van Uden.
As you say there, Steve, it's going to be so painful to get back. Correct yourself if you get this wrong. And what will be really interesting to see is what crews choose to do, because you really want to have that spinnaker set and flying and dragging you downwind as fast as possible. But if you hoist too early and you mistime your run, then there's no way back. Then you've got an extra costly manoeuvre to take the spinnaker down, turn round and come back. So I think we won't see any hoists until maybe 15 seconds to go before the gun, something like that. We'll see the spinnakers flying.
I think one of the other things to bear in mind, I mean, all of that I'd agree with completely, but the other thing to bear in mind is that crews, even the pro crews, very rarely get to practice this. So this is learning on the hoof for a lot of people, even the top sailors.
Excellent point, Matt. Exactly. So many of these pro crews used to doing standard windward lures, that upwind start we were seeing earlier in the week. So a bit of a Cowes Week oddity, this one, but a bit of a Cowes Week classic as well.
Yeah, another oddity in IRC1, there's 2 Moanas.
I'm sure that won't cause any confusion at all.
There's a Belgian one who's leading in IRC Class 1. That's Françoise Goubou.
Just one other point to note, and that is I'm sitting right at on the transit at the outer end, and that outer distance mark is a boat length over the line, so on the wrong side of the line. So anybody who's, well, you don't want to be using that mark as your guide, because if you are, you're over.
2 minutes 15 then to go to the start of IRC 0 and IRC 1, jointly starting there, heading to the east.
It's going to be interesting. We're not going to see the sort of jostling we've seen in the last couple of days. Most of the boats are going to hang up tide here and wait to try and do a timed run in. So you won't get that fighting before the start, the bunching that we've seen quite so much. You can see a few people trying to push each other around, but there's not much you can do because everybody's just sort of milling, trying to stay up tide.
I think one of the other things that I've noticed out here is that the breeze is lighter than I was expecting, and so when they turn downwind and they're going with the tide, the breeze is going to feel even lighter again. So trying to get those kites set and trying to find some clear air to at least drive yourself through is going to be really, really tricky.
We've just seen Schuss, Christiane Zugel's second place boat overall, just winding up a bit more speed to get a little bit of things going, and we have Fargo as well, just chasing Kumba on our IRC 0 little lineup.
Now these are all sailed by mostly pro crews and regularly training crews, so we expect to see really fast sets and manoeuvres from them when they get into that final sequence. Fargo doing a turn now, heading back down towards the line, but they'll have to do another turn again. In fact, look, they're sticking the handbrake right over. They just want to be a little bit closer to the line than everyone else, but look at the handbrake turn as they come to the bottom of the picture, bottom right here, grey vessel Fargo.
Yep, and they're all getting ready for the kite. There goes the Jenica out to the end of the prod on Fargo.
See the bowman there pulling the tack out, getting it out to the end, and you can see actually on most of these boats with bowsprits, you can see the white drape of the spinnaker coming off the bow there on the black sails in the middle. USA 61136, I think, in the middle there.
A few have turned early, I think, Matt.
Yes, they have. They're all holding back, way back, because as we've said, you just can't afford to be over at this start. They're all behaving themselves quite nicely. Fargo's in a good position there.
16 seconds to go. As we go towards our line, you can see the light grey of the line just to the left of Matt's rib there, the end of the end of picture. So
8 seconds to go.
That yellow mark completely off the line, as Matt was pointing out earlier.
No kites going up yet.
Here comes the hoist.
Yes.
Conservative start, but look at Fargo. Beautiful start for them. Really nicely timed. If they can get this set, and there it goes. It's going to fill. Oh, it's not quite filled yet.
GBR 42N is a
still not filled on Fargo though, just going out of right of picture there, struggling to get the kite gun done. Dark and stormy in the middle of picture, 750R in the middle, beautifully set and absolutely ripping downwind.
Cracking start by La Propence actually on the other side of Fargo.
Really nice. Look at them struggling. It's a couple of boats here trying to get the kites filled. A bit lighter, a bit less breeze than we were expecting for this start, but Fargo, middle of picture here, grey hull, absolutely ripping downwind.
They got that timing absolutely spot on Fargo. They managed to create the impossible, really. They managed to find themselves a hole, get the timing right, and then the big risk for Fargo then was that people would roll over the top of them and just steal all their wind, but they just managed to hold that gap, which was very impressive for one of the smaller boats in the fleet.
Yes, we're watching La Propence, Andrew McIrvine's lovely boat, good start for them, and we believe Eddie Warden-Owen sailing on board there, ex-chief of Royal Ocean Racing Club. And look at Schuss now with its huge Jenica just powering up. Oh,
absolutely beautiful, overpowered.
Sheet on, boys.
See the main flogging, you can see the ripples through the black of the mainsail there on the right of picture, easing.
What they're trying to do, sorry to butt in there, but what they're trying to do, the reason they're pressing up is that they've gone down past the guard ship, and Fargo has gone to leeward of the guard ship and is likely going to lose their breeze, and those two big boats realised that they would be better off going to windward, so it was a little bit of a squeeze at the last minute.
Just see Fargo to the right of shot coming out from behind. Here we go, middle of picture. And you expect to see this spinnaker go soft in a second as they sail into that. There it is. Look, it starts to collapse a little bit at the top. Looks like they've got through there reasonably unscathed. But definitely look at the gains made for the boats to weather with these two spinnakers sailing round the outside. As Dark and Stormy deploys their staysail up here, the small sail at the front, you can deploy downwind like a extra tiny jib.
And pulling away too.
That start's worked out surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, very well for Fargo, because they're one of the smaller boats in the fleet. They're always going to be at risk of having their wind stolen by the others. But that guard ship actually played into their hands, because it meant that the big boats that were threatening to take their wind away decided to go the other side of the guard ship and created a big gap between them and Fargo, which meant Fargo's managed to keep her wind all the way down this leg.
Great shots of Dark and Stormy, really powering up now.
Absolutely flying down into the Eastern Solent. Look at them, they're having a great run, but quite a short run for them. They've not got too far to go on this leg, and then they've got some back and forward to happen in the Eastern Solent this afternoon. So short downwind, but a quick one for them.
Yes, and they're off like scolded cats, really, with this tide underneath them. Look, they're well off of Osborne Castle already and steaming down to the east.
And they've got to have 2 or 3 knots of tide under them right in the middle, and we could see there them choosing to stay offshore, stay in the deep water of the channel where the tide is slooshing down the Solent. You can see them there almost going left to right across the picture. Some of that is they're sailing away from us, but most of it is the tide is pushing them across the picture as we look at it.
Yeah, so they're actually out there in race order, almost, if you like, because overall, after 4 races, Dark and Stormy with Ian Atkins, Schuss is second, and Fargo is in 3rd place. And look at Dark and Stormy just pulling out a long lead here over Schuss.
Absolutely beautiful pictures. That kite beautifully set. Look at them. They haven't had a single flog since the start of the race. Not a single moment of missed trimming. So absolutely beautiful sailing by them. See them bearing away a little bit here as well as we do a circle round in our chase boat.
Okay, well, we have to leave the IRC 0 and 0 and 1, of course, for their race for the Britannia Trophy, because we're heading to 1 minute to go for the start of the next. And this is the exciting Cape 31s, which are getting underway. And again, will they time it to the line? Some holding back, Matt?
Yeah, now we can expect some fireworks on this start, because these boats are all identical, as we've said before, and they're all hunting as a pack. They're all closely gathered together. And one of the things we saw in the previous start was actually the scrap to get around this pin end mark was really quite a bundle, really, because everybody's trying to squeeze in around the end of the line. But this is going to be pretty interesting at the moment. Just trying to see who I quite like the look of.
20 seconds to go, Matt.
I think several of these boats are going to be over here. This bottom trio, bottom of shot. In fact, just look at them in the middle of picture here, trying to still go up tide. We can see whoever this is right at the bottom of the picture. Shotgun, they're over.
Bailed out, tacked over and tried to pull back. So
that's it. They've got to try and sail upwind now, but they're over the start line. They've got a lot of untangling to do.
312 is the boat. Now, was 312 over the line at the start? I'm not really sure, but if they weren't, they got the best of the start.
I don't think they were, but...
Excellent. Well, that'll be good for them, because they got the best start, followed possibly by Squirt, I think. Actually got a very good start out of that as well, because they got clear air.
312 that we're looking at the right of picture here, first to get their kite filled, and now pulling out a commanding lead over the rest of the fleet. Look at the gap building between them and 311X behind them, the blue hull. You can just see that distance gaining all the time.
Yes. Clear air is what you're after there, and a cracking start for Tokolosh 4 and Arabella just astern of them.
Well, 312 got the best start there. That was almost a carbon copy of what Fargo did. They just held their nerve. They managed to stay up tide of the line for just about long enough, but as importantly, they were able to keep their clear air as well, and they managed to shoot off and maintain that clear air.
We got 3118 Fanatic just really up on its hind. Look at surfing along like a
absolutely
surfboard,
beautiful, isn't it? Like, looking like Dark and Stormy that we saw in the first start, absolutely powered up and sending it downwind into the Eastern Solent.
There's going to be some fun and games around the guard ship. There's the Polestar there. A couple of them have just realised that the guard ship is in the middle of their route down there, and they don't want to go to leeward of that ship, because these are much smaller rigs and they're much more likely to get into dirty air, and they're having to squeeze up to try and get around the bow of the ship. But it's a risky move, because you've got the tide sweeping you down there as well.
There they
They're
go.
just going to make it.
Yes.
You'd be chewing your fingernails at that point if they weren't hanging onto the spinnaker sheet.
Cracking start then amongst the Kate 31s, and they too are off like scolded cats down to the east.
Really nice pictures as we see them go here. You can see the crew up on the windward rail. Not so much moved to the back of the boat. You often see when it gets windier, the crew will shimmy all the way to the back to keep that bow up. But it's less breeze than we were expecting here today, so the crew more in the middle of the boat, keeping the weight distribution more even as they sail downwind.
Sardonyx, who's decided to go the other side of the guard ship.
Really nice. You can see the puff here, just on the windward boat as their spinnaker curls, collapses slightly, trimming on. You can see the boats to leeward down by the guard ship trying to come up into this pressure as we look at it. Nice little puff down here.
Tokolosh doing really well, and Tokolosh is lying 5th overall, so they could really do with the win here. Squirt, Russell Peters, is lying in 1st place, 10 points clear of Katabate.
Look at them go. Look at that, absolutely lit here as they come down the Solent. 3118, just going out.
Sardonyx.
Sardonyx.
Sorry, that's Fanatic.
Oh, that's Fanatic.
Yep.
But beautiful,
They're
look at
Arabella.
them. Great little boats, these Cape 31s, and such close racing as we've mentioned before with the one design hulls, keeping it all about the sailors and the tactics as they choose to sail over the rest of the day. Great little sleigh ride, look at that. Crew weight being shimmied back a little bit as they get a puff. You can see the navigator's leg hanging over the back of the boat there as he's finding a spot.
This is Flying Jenny.
Navigator here looking like he's holding on to probably a kicker for the main sheet here. You can see him holding in his left hand and just there trimming it on and easing in the gust, so everybody, even the navigator, looking down at his tablet, having to trim sails on these boats.
Yep, they're lying 6th overall, Flying Jenny.
Absolutely glorious. That looks just fantastic, doesn't it?
Yes.
Just quite green with envy up here in the commentary box.
This is almost a commercial for Kate 31.
It is.
One of the things that you won't be able to see, I very much doubt, because it'll be well out of the picture range, but I noticed this on the first start, there are a few people who've decided a breakaway tactic, and that is, instead of heading straight off down as the way we've seen the fleets go, is to jibe at the pin end of the line and head north on port jibe, out further into the Solent, and then jibe back. And that way, they keep themselves in clear air, they don't get caught up in the bun fight of the rest of the fleet, but it's a big risk, and there's a few that have chosen to do it, and I've tried it myself. I remember doing this a couple of times, and I can't remember whether it works or not. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure there's going to be a few other people try that, particularly if you get buried at the pin end of the line. Really, your only option is to bail out, jibe, and head out.
Okay, just very briefly, 4 seconds to go. I don't know if we've got the course, because we've missed out on the courses for these fleets. Here we go. And not too far down to Ancaster Buoy, then tacking their way right down to Berthon and back to the finish line. So, 21 seconds to go. Who's going to turn first?
The boat to watch in this lineup here is Adam Gosling's Yes. And again, he's one of the smallest boats in the fleet, but they're also one of the quickest. And it's their timing that I'm watching.
As a distinctive colour, yes, the dark blue hull. Another one to watch out is 22118, which is Leon, has Leon written across the bottom sail, 2nd overall.
Oh, that's a great start by 7408.
Great
Whoa,
start. Look at them in the
timing
middle.
Perfect.
But not ready with the spinnaker. So now
Arthur.
it'll be interesting. This is going to cost them because they haven't got the pole arm. The kite's not being set. The boat's behind them. Look, I believe that's Hugh Brayshaw on 4374.
Yeah, that's the French boat, Nutbeg 6.
It's a new
This one.
new boat to him, so they're just getting set, but a nice early set from them. You can see them pulling away and getting down into that extra tide, more tide at the top of picture as we look at it, with that deep channel running left to right across the screen.
Yeah, Arthur 7408. They're still in good contention, first 40.
Now Leon right in the middle of picture, you can just see the letters down the side of the hull, and yes, in the bottom left of picture here, this dark blue-grey hull as we look on the screen.
Yep.
They are actually nicely positioned, both very similar boats here, both symmetricals. You can see the pole pushed all the way forwards. Yes, doing a beautiful job. They're going to roll this boat to leeward, 777, just lose it as it goes behind Yes's mainsail.
Yes is in a very good position there, Oscar, because they, as you will have seen, they're further to the south, so they've got a clear run out to the east. They don't have to worry about the guard ship. The tide's still running pretty good down there, and they've got clear air. Whereas Leon is going to struggle now. They've got to make the decision. Do they go to the south of that guard ship, or do they risk going to the north and losing their breeze? So they've got far more things to think about. I think Yes has got the upper hand in these opening few seconds.
Bit of a match race almost going on really between Yes and Leon, David Franks' Leon, because there's only 2 points separating them overall at the moment. So at the front there of the fleet is a bit of a match race.
Leon's going to have a real struggle getting around the bow of that guard ship. I think if there's one thing that people have underestimated this morning, it's not how much tide there is, it's not how difficult it is to get your time on distance right, it's the obstacle that greets you 30 seconds into your race.
And look at, we got Leon in the middle of the picture, but we just lost Yes out the front. You can see them being squirted round the front of Leon there, just in the left of shot. Look at them. They've made excellent gains after that start. Leon quite nicely set there, right of picture. You can just see Yes down here. Hopefully we'll pull out and you can see Leon. Look at them as they squeeze around the front of this guard ship. Double whammy here with this guard ship, because if we look, we can see there's actually a barge been placed just alongside it. So it's not even just the guard ship's width, it's that plus a bit. Leon just about making it around the front in the tide there. But you can see Yes in this controlling position. Look at them able to pull the pole back a little bit and close the gauge with Leon, being able to choose whatever they want to do here.
Well, Leon did a pretty good job there, actually, because they were a little bit lower, so they're sailing a little higher, a bit more breeze. So maybe a bit more speed. Yes is having to bear away a little bit more.
Leon having to sail that bit of extra distance, though. So definitely picking up the speed, and you can see them closing up as we go on board with Yes. Yes, look at this beautiful setup here. They've got the staysail up, through weight nice and forwards by the shrouds. They're making excellent progress down to the east.
And Gosling, of course, on the helm there of Yes.
Very calm on Yes. Look, you can see the crew very relaxed. Looks like they're thinking about a manoeuvre, maybe, just bringing in the kite trimmer. You can see into
the
the
big
boat.
the gust there.
Trimming on, just the front of the spinnaker collapsing. Nicely settled, nicely recovered there. Just unfurling the
Jenica.
I don't mean the Jenica, I mean the staysail.
The staysail's been rolling away now. Look.
And look at them, they're playing that. Where the breeze drops, they roll the staysail away to keep the spinnaker clear, keep the spinnaker pulling. And then when the puff builds, the pressure comes in, let that staysail back out again. Bit more power. You can afford to cover the spinnaker area slightly as the pressure builds.
Okay, that's Yes on their way for the race course, and Leon right on their hip now.
They're going to have a great battle. These two have been trading wins all week long, and Yes having the upper hand of it so far in this class, but Leon yesterday taking the win, so definitely coming back as the week goes on.
Okay, we're going to flick the page because we're into 1 minute to go for IRC 3. And a quick look at their course as well, if we can bring it up. There it is. Again, down to Ancaster, just a short run, and then they're heading all the way west. So lots of beating, all the way down to Burthon, and at Lymington, and back again.
That's quite an interesting course. There's lots of tidal crosses here as we look at as that course a few minutes ago. They've got that long beat all the way up to Burthon. They're going to have to cross the channel a couple of times. So lots of tactical choices as the day goes on. 30 seconds to go before this start. Malice just going out of right of picture here, doing well in this class, second so far, and a very competitive boat in this light stuff, certainly beating in the light. She should do very well as the day progresses.
Yeah, we're looking for the JPK 1010 Elaine again, which is 1250N. They're the current leaders after 4 races.
With 8 seconds to go, look at Malice in the left of picture here, drifting sideways. It looks like a J105, Joss in the middle. They're going backwards on the line. Nicely timed from Malice there. Look at that. Clear. Beautiful. Now, if they can get this spinnaker hoisted quickly and get themselves underway, they're going to do really well as they take on the other boats. There's a bit of a race for spinnaker hoist. You can see the white of the A35 behind them. Quicker hoist on the A35, 35080, but not set yet. Who's going to be the first to fill this spinnaker? It's going to be tight. They're both up. Poles are both forwards. Looks like it's going to be Malice. Just going to be Malice. Both boats struggling to set the spinnaker. And it is Malice who just wins out on the... So that's going to give them the slight edge. Both boats starting right down at the pin. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds with that guard ship, as Matt was talking about previously.
Nice start then, Matt, for the IRC Class 3.
Absolutely, and it's very interesting. I mean, I have to start out by saying we do have the enviable advantage and benefit of being able to see start after start.
Yes.
And you start to see patterns appear, and you start to become an expert. But if there was one thing that if you freeze frame this and said, right, what's the advice to the next class and all the subsequent ones is, don't get fixated on the pin end of the line. There are so many boats that are coming in on that pin end thinking that they're fighting for it and then they win it. And actually, there's no need to fight for the pin end. Halfway along the line, it's absolutely fine. In fact, it's probably the best place because you've got clear air, a good run to the east, and we're seeing it again and again. The boats that are doing well are the ones that are starting halfway down this line and setting themselves up with plenty of options for going east and the ability to keep clear air. That seems to be the recipe for success on this start line.
We're watching the A35 Njord from Belgium. They had a good start. They're downwind though of the guard ship, so there could be a wind shadow coming up here for them.
As it's looking like most of this fleet is going to go that side, the leeward side of this guard ship. You can just see Malice with the blue spinnaker in the background there. So
I think that's because there was a bit of a shift actually, Oscar. There was a gust that came through and it was a header. It went more around to the south and they couldn't make it around the windward side of the ship.
And really, you know, with that extra, as you say, Matt, that's great because they don't actually want to sail the extra distance to the windward of the guard ship. No one likes to have the dirty air, but if you can get to leeward, they all want to be going a little bit closer towards the camera as we look at them here. Malice's spinnaker collapsing there as they go through the lee of the guard ship, just talking about it. And you can see just on their hip a Sunfast 3300, I think, who's gone the other side, fully pressured up, coming back towards them. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds shortly.
And they don't need to be that far to leeward or to the north of that guard ship. I mean, it really is only 3 or 4 boat lengths, and I think that guard ship's not that big, so the breeze tends to get around it and you can get through cleanly. But what you don't want to be doing is sliding down the leeward side of the ship, because then you really are going to run out of breeze.
Yes.
The only, I suppose, the saving grace is that the tide is taking you through, so the pain's over quite quickly, but even so.
A lot of tide we're seeing from lovely drone shots. Thank you, Richard. The tide on the barge at the guard ship was quite awful.
Almost looked like the guard ship was moving there. There's so much water flowing past it as the tide runs out to the east of the Solent. Malice looked nicely powered up here. In fact, looking like they need to almost ease the main. Beautifully set as they come down towards the east. You can see with that symmetrical pole, bit different to we were looking at the early starts. They've got the ability to pull the pole back, go deep whenever they want, but at the moment everyone in lovely pressure and paralleling each other down the shore. That A35 just behind them, you can see with the red and white spinnaker on the left.
Okay, we're leaving Malice to try and track down Elaine again, because Elaine again has a commanding lead overall. They've had 2 seconds and 2 firsts in Elaine again, so yep. We're coming back to the start line now, leaving Malice, and the next guys to time their run to the start line. I have to say that was a fantastic start in IRC3, wasn't it?
Absolutely, all the starts so far today have been absolutely great, and it's great to see a bit of spinnaker starting. As we said before, we really don't get that often in yacht racing. You know, to have this spinnaker start. I think the Round the Island is the other iconic spinnaker start event that it springs to mind. So great to see them, and they're actually doing a really good job here. We talked a lot about this pre-start, about how many boats we thought we were going to be over with this tide, but so far everyone defying expectations and keeping it remarkably clean.
Yeah, nice shot of Malice.
They're very relaxed, don't they, on Malice? They're in a good position in the middle of the fleet there. They can control the boats to leeward, nice pressure, everything's set. You can see the kite trimmer in the middle in the tan shorts, trimming away as they overhaul this Veneto 34.7, I think, just going out of the back of shot.
Don't think they're in the race, unfortunately, those guys in IRC3. So we're just coming down to the warning signal for Performance Cruiser A. We'll come back to them in a while as we still continue with these fantastic shots of the colourful spinnaker starts here on day 5, the youth day of Cowes Week 2022.
Now, mix of spinnakers we were talking about earlier. You can see this light blue spinnaker, middle of shot, running an asymmetric spinnaker on a bowsprit. Most of this class running symmetrical spinnakers with poles. So quite different. The asymmetric going to have to work harder at sailing the angles here. And later on in the day, as they come and do the downwind leg, they're going to struggle a little bit. As they come into the finish, the symmetrical poles will be able to pull that pole back, go square, and maybe have a better angle out in the tide. We're on board with the first 36.7.
3267. That's Animal.
Nicely settled again as well for them.
Animal is 7th overall at the moment after 4 races.
Just beautiful shots from the Eastern Solent today. They're really nice to see the boats going downwind.
That's Jet.
You can see Jet having to sail a little bit more conservatively with that asymmetric kite, having to ease a little bit more than some of the symmetrical boats with the pole forwards.
So that's all of our fast handicap classes sailing away. We're now heading back to Performance Cruiser handicaps, where there's a much larger variety of boats and sizes. We have the Grieg Academy in here, all sorts of boats. But let's quickly look at the overalls after 4 races, and it's Baby X, Charles S's Baby X in the lead with 6 points, but just 1 point behind them is EHO1 Global Yacht Racing on 7 points overall. So it's a real nip and tuck at the front end here, isn't it?
Really close in this class, and they've had some really good tacking duels earlier in the week up the shore, as we saw. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on with their manoeuvres for the kite hoist today. But just coming up to 3 minutes to go before the start here. Look at them all pointing upwind. They're still beating into that tide, trying to stay the right side of the line.
And of course, we ought to mention Desperado, the biggest. Here, the Swan 65 catch. I think it's the only catch in the entire entry list of 500 odd boats. And Desperado, the Swan 65, when we saw it last time it started here, it didn't have a mizzen up, did it?
No, it didn't. It wasn't running it, and you can just see the Kevlar sails of Incisor here. That's a very famous Tuesday night boat. That's been doing the Tuesday nights ever since I started sailing. So an old legend sailing out today. I think they missed the first day of the regatta, so a bit of ground to make up for them. But
Desperado, though, Richard Loftus is in 3rd overall, so handicap works for them.
It's such a good system, this handicap racing, and not having to have all the same boat. Everyone's different varieties of boats here sail. You can see a couple of boats making their way. Look at the tide pushing these sports boats just to the transom of the trimaran here, just going sideways, even though they're sailing directly here at the shore. Absolutely hoofing the tide out in the middle of the Solent there.
Yeah, Matt's, I think, got back to the pin-in mark, and what's the tide doing on that mark, Matt?
Hosing out. Well, sorry, hosing in. Sorry, it's a flood tide.
Yes.
Yeah, it's ripping past this buoy. There's a good couple of knots running over it. Interesting to see just how far upwind the Performance Cruiser A's have gone. It's almost like they're running away. Don't want to see it. But you do need to be up there because these boats might be big boats, but they don't accelerate in quite the same way as the IRC boats that we saw kick off the day. So getting your time on distance, as they call it, getting your time on distance right, your timed run into the line is really, really tricky, particularly with a heavy boat that's slower to manoeuvre.
Okay, let's take a look at their course then for Performance Cruiser A. They're heading east like everyone else. And I suspect it will be that Ancaster mark before they head down to the west, right down towards Lymington before coming back here. But 1 minute to go.
Just as Matt was saying there, you can see these heavier boats. Look, they make the turn. They're all pointing up tide still, but they turn and they just stop. Unlike the lighter weight boats that we looked at the beginning of the race where they can sheet on, there's not much boat weight to them. These bigger, heavier cruising boats take a long time to accelerate, and you can see them here struggling to get up to speed as they go sideways.
We have got a little J70 sitting on the line in just the kind of place that's going to make them part of the story if they don't get out of there quickly. I don't think they quite realise they've got a fleet of big, heavy boats sweeping down towards them.
25 seconds to go before this start, and in a second we'll start to see those bows sweeping in from left of shot. Now, it'll be interesting. I expect we'll see some slightly more conservative hoists here. I think we won't see any proper spinnaker hoisting until the gun goes. Everyone wants to make...
Yes, absolutely. Desperado is fully up. No mizzen on her, but she's certainly powering along now, pulling up the speed. And I think they're all going to be well shy of the line. Well done to Performance Cruiser A. All clear.
So the gun goes. And just see boats coming in. There we go, left of shot. The first spinnaker starting to hoist. Early hoist is going to help here. You can see Incisor with that light grey jib on the left of picture.
And the Swan 65 with the mizzen up. So I couldn't see the mizzen from here, but there it is.
I was going to say, Steve, if there's for me, the boat that really got that right was actually Desperado. They weren't the first over the line, but that is a big, heavy boat, and that takes a lot of skill to get your time on distance right on that. And they came in using their momentum, and they were really firing along, and they're going to slide themselves straight out the front of the fleet. Mind you, they have got the biggest sail plan, so they should do as well.
They do, and they're going to create a mighty wind shadow to leeward them as well. So some of the smaller boats are going to have to tactically think about where they want to be positioned there. You can see they looks like a 40.7 just to leeward. They're going to have to think about coming up or getting behind them, getting out of that dirty air of Desperado, because they're never going to be able to sail through their lee.
There's Lutine, flying 6th overall after 4 races.
Quite casual. They've still got the spinnaker in a bag on the foredeck. They haven't chosen to go for an instant hoist, so maybe they're thinking about a little bit later on they want to have their options open as they come up to this guard ship. But you'd be thinking they'd start looking at a hoist as the rest of their class sheets on and hoists around them. And You can see they're going to start getting left behind here. Desperado, this white and blue spinnaker, middle of shot with 2 masts, as we were just talking about, making excellent progress down into the eastern Solent.
And it looks like most of them are choosing to be on the windward side of the guard ship this time.
Quite high this class compared to the other ones. We were looking just a minute ago at IRC3, who were well to the left of the guard ship, top left of picture. This whole fleet choosing to sail high, exactly as you say.
And I think that's because they are heavier boats for a start, and they've also got more stability and more power. They can deal with the gusts as they come down, but all of them seem to realise they needed to heat it up, as we call it, sail a tighter angle just to keep the boats going, and that naturally took them a lot further to windward of the guard ship, whereas the lighter boats, a gust comes along and you have to turn away from the wind, and suddenly there's a whole pile of metal in front of you.
Horrible shifty conditions coming down the Medina, upsetting the kite trimmers here. And we've got a great shot of that lovely Swan 65 Desperado. Kite filling really well now.
Baby X just at the left of picture. You can just see their transom here on the left of shot. Now they're in a little bit of a pickle because you've got the dirty air coming off Desperado. So much sail area behind them. You can see them heating it up. They're going to want to just get in front, almost come up to be in line with Desperado. Clear that wind, stay ahead. But they don't have the option to pull the bow down and get depth at this stage, because otherwise Desperado is going to roll over their wind and get it all kinds of messy for Baby X.
All they need with that big, sorry Steve, all they need with Baby X is just a gust to come along, because they have got that bigger asymmetric sail. They're much lighter boat, and I suspect they know that if they can just get 1 or 2 little bullets of breeze to come down and catch them, they can accelerate away and they'll be able to get themselves into a better position.
Yeah, but that Swan 65 giving them a lot of blanketed dirty air there.
You can see Baby X top left in picture with that orange spinnaker stretching away a little bit, just as Matt was talking about, able to accelerate that little bit more when she gets the puff. So hopefully she'll be able to squeak her nose around and keep clean there. But Desperado beautifully set in the middle of top left of picture here, white with the blue leading edge of the spinnaker, absolutely steaming downwind. It'll take them a while when they get to the bottom. They're going to have to do a drop and it'll be slower to get up to speed round the corner. So it's going to be a mixed day of fortunes for these fleets, because very different boats, as we talked about before, very different advantages in different parts of the course.
Beautiful shot of that Swan 65 and a lot of people on board.
A lot of sails.
Yes, a lot of sails.
Baby X now, we were just talking about her being in the dirty wind of Desperado, but you can see she's just moved to the right of picture there, so she's now just in front, or just to weather, so she's back in clear air, bow forward of Desperado.
Yeah, Johnny Colquitt on the helm of Desperado with tactician, looks like Titch Batchford from Leamington, so some powerboat racers on board there as well, Johnny. But let's get back to 40 seconds away from HP 30s, because that's the next class start up here. And Moral Compass, we were hearing from Jerry Hill earlier. Matt talked to him. He has a commanding lead over Guelo in the HP 30s, and Go West Co-Digital, Alan Waha, is third on 15 points, equal number of points to Guelo.
You can see them here, middle of picture. You can see the tide on this little yellow buoy, bottom right of picture, sweeping them down as the boats go sideways. 9 seconds to go here as we go to our line cam. J70 very inconveniently sat bang in the middle of the line. You can see the HP 30s, they'll probably be just out to sea of them. Nice start from them, nicely timed. Number 5 here, really nice. Set and powered up as they go. I can't read the sail number on the red spinnaker behind them.
That was Moral Compass.
Moral Compass, really nice start from them. Looks like number 5, you've got the...
That is number 5, Moral Compass.
Oh, sorry, Moral Compass looking like the spinnaker not all the way up. You can see a gap between the top of the blue and the top of the mast. So they've got a bit of work to try and untangle that, because they won't be getting maximum efficiency from that spinnaker until it's set properly. And now you can see them winding it up. Look, nearly set at the top.
Co-West Co-Digital is down to leeward of them.
Quite a big gap. Look, it's quite difficult to see sometimes in our footage here. It looks like the boats are right next to each other, but actually there's quite a big gap between Moral Compass and Co-Digital in the red spinnaker to leeward.
Co-Digital, well, Moral Compass, there is a big distance between them, you're absolutely right. Moral Compass started in what I think is the favoured part of the line, and they didn't quite get their kite hoist done smartly enough, but now they're making up for that and they have got the speed. But also, Co-Digital started at the pin end, and I haven't seen anybody really pull that off properly yet until that start, and they did a superb job on there. They managed to get clear air, they got their timing absolutely right, and they've taken the sort of lower route, if you like. They've taken the more northerly route down this leg, but a very impressive start from them. They're a slightly smaller boat or a slower boat rather than Moral Compass, so they're never going to keep up the pace on the water. But a good start from them. Moral Compass got a good, eventually got themselves up to speed, but now they're having to squeeze rather hard to get around this guard ship.
You can see a couple of boats bottom left of picture, this red Spinnaker. They're not going to make it round this guard ship with this tide. I don't think so. They're going to have to end up just going to leeward. But because they're trying, they're going to end up very close. So expect to see the Spinnaker of both the red and the white at the bottom of picture here collapse in a second as they get behind that guard ship, just appearing top left of shot.
In fact, 2801 is Guelo, who's up there in the chocolate, says he jibed.
Both boats, in fact, having to jive out to get away from that, as we've just lost the Moral Compass going round to weather, as Matt was talking about. Clear air all the way, absolutely flying in that tide. You can't just see them coming out the back of the guard ship. That blue Spinnaker in the distance there. Look at the distance they're making up. Less manoeuvres, clear air, clear run straight off the start. Beautiful work by them. The tide on the bow of the guard ship, you can see it slooshing out. It's going to be like that most of the afternoon. We're still several hours before high tide, so they're going to have to fight this incoming tide for the next few hours.
Yeah, it's gone quite light downwind of the guard ship, and they're being overhauled now by those slightly smaller.
Moral Compass here commandingly. Look how
Yes.
settled they look. They're in beautiful pressure. Crew all out on the rail, ready to go. Excellent position from them. They've had a cracking start and absolutely dominated the first leg of this race. Nice puff here. Look, boat heeling over. You can just see the Spinnaker foot catching the waves as they sail through them. They're off. They're up and planing.
Yep, they're off down to their leeward mark, and then it's quite a long beat past us up to the west. But, well, certainly firing up now, Moral Compass.
That long beat you were just mentioning, really interesting because it's going to be against the tide, which is going to take them a long time, and there aren't many spots of tidal relief when you turn at the Ancaster mark that we were looking at before. What do? Do you dive for the island shore? Do you dive for the mainland shore? They've got some big decisions to make in that upwind leg coming up.
So, we're off to IRC4 now. Thank you to the HP30s. That's the first time we've seen the 30s racing off the squadron line, and they make a very nice display for us.
Fantastic start. Yeah, really nice. Great looking boats, and look like they're going to have a lot of fun this afternoon.
So we're looking at the IRC4s now. Perhaps there's a course for them. There we go. And again, off to that Ancaster mark. Not so far down to the west. They're heading off of just past Beaulieu. And then back to the finish at the squadron.
It's going to be really busy at that Ancaster mark, and again having to cross multiple tidal channels as they come back upwind into the west. So quite a complicated beat tactically for them later on in the day. 2091 here as we look at them sailing upwind. Brown Teal doing really nice, third in class overall, so having a good regatta, just going out of left of picture. You can see them again, look, all still going upwind, 30 seconds to go. You can see the Spinnaker, the blue Spinnaker of 97L here in centre of picture. Got that ready, pole is out. You can see as well, just on the right here, you can see the bowman standing on the bow there, calling, looking at the transit just as they come into the left of shot with 14 seconds to go. Going sideways on the tide, look. They're gonna have to get the pace on and get the boat moving if they want to go upwind, but I think they'll be okay. Expect to see them pull the bow down now. Because yes, look, you can see them pulling the tack of the Spinnaker out from behind the jib and going for the hoist at the gun. It's a safe start from them, but nicely done. They're a good boat and a half length in front of their competitors, in front of 97L. Geronimo with a nice set, and look, the kite's filling already. First kite to fill, so nicely positioned, although coming up a long way, kite collapsing.
Cork 1720 modified there, going nicely with the red kite, filling beautifully. Decoy in second place at the moment.
Geronimo in a bit of sort of strife here. I'm not quite sure why they can't sheet on fast enough, but there we go, getting the kite filling now, getting up to speed. Cost them a little bit of a time. You can see that modified 1720, top right of picture, the red Spinnaker right there at the top right. They've done well as Geronimo struggled to get their kite filling early in this race. Jay Walker here. He's in the middle of the picture.
Yep, she's the leader after 4 races.
Still also struggling with that dirty air and kites collapsing a little bit. They're not settled here off the start, getting straight after that hoist.
The trouble was, on that start, we had a gaggle in the middle that seemed hell-bent on luffing each other up. They were trying to protect their windward, their wind by luffing the others, but actually all they were doing was they were just stopping each other, and they let the red boat, I can't remember what that's called, I just see it, the modified 1720, they let them run away with it. So that it was really a bit of an own goal for the bunch in the middle that just got themselves all tied up in knots on the line.
And what's Geronimo going to do? They're starting to get to the bow of this guard ship. We'll see it coming into the right of picture shortly. Are they come up enough closer to the wind to get round the weather side of it, or are they going to be forced to pass close to leeward, just coming into shot? Just see the bow anchor.
They're going to be fine, I think. And Geronimo's got the Doyle spinnaker on, hasn't it?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a clean line. I'm right behind them, or looking down their line, and they've actually got a clear path out towards the east. So they've got the best route out of here, I'd say.
Really nice sailing from them. You can see most of the rest of the fleet going the other side. So if they can get a puff here, they can shoot round the rest of the fleet who's going to get caught in that dirty air, that lee of this guard ship that's sat here. Nice sailing crew out on the rail. They look very settled after their little shaky start getting that spinnaker set.
What's very apparent now, we've seen quite a few classes go down, and we can see where the course goes as well, is that there is a one-track. The best route down there basically is the way we've just seen Geronimo go, and it's staying to the south of the guard ship. And the reason I say that is because where their leeward mark is over on the mainland shore, staying on the south side of the guard ship means that you stay in the deep water channel that runs parallel with the Isle of Wight for much longer, and that's significant because that's where the tide's running fastest. The time to jibe and go over on port up the north, do that later on when the tide's weaker further over on the other side, and it seems to be working out for those that were in earlier classes that took that southerly route across to the mainland shore.
Well, the southerly route looks like it's paying off at the moment, Oscar, because that modified Cork 1720 is really pushing on.
So they're doing well in there. Now, don't forget, though, they were ahead coming out of the start. They were the first boat to the line, just had a few boat lengths advantage. So I think Geronimo pulling a little bit of distance back there, actually, just by doing that southerly route that Matt was talking about. But it'll be interesting to see because they're not that far apart on the water. So as they get further down, staying in that tide, it's going to be very close for them as they come into the bottom.
The other thing to bear in mind is that the more southerly route also that Geronimo took means that any gust of breeze that comes to them gets to them first. They're going to get all of the gusts before anybody to leeward.
Okay, well, that's IRC 4 class underway. We were looking for our featured boat from yesterday. That was Nike Job. I didn't quite see them, the other J92, but they weren't up with that leading J92. So let's now look for J109s with 1 minute and 4 seconds to go. Their race course, I suspect, is going to be pretty similar to everyone else, but yep, Ancaster certainly getting a lot of the love here today, and they're heading down to the west, way past Bewley, and then back for the finish here at the squadron line.
Nice. You see them getting settled there, and interesting again, we keep talking about that up and down challenging upwind that's coming later on. They've got to do a little sausage leg in the western Solent, and so that's going to be quite difficult because these boats are asymmetric spinnakers again, so quite challenging downwind, upwind, windward, leeward for them later in the afternoon. 30 seconds to go. See the fleet here, the dark sails, the J109 fleet picking out. We go to our start line camera here.
20 seconds. The boat we were looking for was Jewel, which is the Dutch boat 8276, a J109, which of course they all are.
Now the start line cam here not giving us the full picture because we can't see the boats milling
but
up
here
tide.
comes the one with the spinnaker, and they're going to be over the line just.
That's okay because it's just SB20, but we see the
yes.
the J109s coming in here. Bad hoist coming in. This is Jewel, the class leader. So they're having a mare of a time. Look at them, the spinnaker caught on the shroud there. You can see everything's twisted. In fact, they're pulling the clue of the spinnaker where the sheet goes in. It's wrapped around the head. In fact, the spinnaker is hoisted upside down. Look, the head of the spinnaker is attached to the pole, and they're hoisting one of the clues up on the spinnaker halyard. So a disaster for the bowman on Jewel by the looks of it. They haven't worked it out yet, and the boat behind them, nice clean set. That's an absolute disaster for Jewel. That's not the way they want to start the day.
This is Jewel, Ned, 8276. 2091 is Brown Teal, actually the British.
Oh, I've got my boats wrong.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Okay, well, look, the Jewel is actually coming up behind the beleaguered wine glass, unfortunately, of Brown Teal, and a big gust coming through for Teal.
And the big problem for these guys is they haven't worked out that their kite is actually hoisted upside down yet. They need to be dropping this as soon as possible, changing it over. It feels like they think there's just a twist that they can pull out, but actually the head of the spinnaker is attached to the pole, and the whole thing is upside down.
It's a good job that they take credit cards in the bar, because that bowman's going to have quite an expensive round this afternoon.
Absolutely, that is a clanger from the bowman there. That's an embarrassment for them.
Mind you, we've all been there.
Yes.
Even regatta director Lawrence has started the solo around the island race and hoisted his spinnaker upside down. He won't thank me for telling that story, but it's true. It has happened to everybody.
Yes, here he comes.
Getting some filthy looks up here.
So, quite close between Jukebox. Looking for Jukebox in second place here. GBR 9091.
Now, this is costing them a lot of time. We're looking at that spinnaker centre of shot. You can see it collapsed behind the jib. They've worked out what's wrong with it now, and they're going to have to take it down. And the other boats around them much better with their spinnakers flying. Look at them coming in. Look at the distance that this blue spinnaker behind is taking out of them as they have to untangle the mess of their upside-down spinnaker.
Yes, some having to go to leeward of the guard ship. A couple going to windward. See if they come out the other side. There's a rather famous boat here. This is Che Bly's GB2, a round-the-world veteran from the Whitbread. Out to watch this racing here amongst the J109s.
A mix of decisions here. A couple of boats, you can just see going out left of picture with our camera boat down there. Is class leader Jewel doing a beautiful job in that southerly route going to the weather side of the patrol boat. But a couple of boats, centre of picture here, choosing to do the northerly route, but you can just see the spinnaker starting to collapse on board with Jewel now.
Yeah, Jewel leading by just 2 points over Jukebox, which we haven't seen yet.
Really nice and settled from them. You can see the whole crew spread around to keep the weight in the middle of the boat. Don't need weight right forwards in these conditions. There is enough pressure.
A little bit of dingy sailing there. The luff of the Jenica was really just curling in, but the helmsman very quick to bear away. Big old wheel on this J109, isn't it?
Big old wheel. And they go upwind really well, J109s, but they struggle in these conditions against slightly flatter boats under the water. The flatter boats can get up and get planing, as we see. I can't remember the boat name who had their spinnaker upside down here. The white spinnaker just filling at the bottom as they get it sorted back out. It's hoisted the right way up now, but they're still 1.5 feet off the top of the masthead. You can just see the spinnaker not quite reaching the top. So still a bit of work for them to do before they get up to speed properly.
Bran Teal lying at third after 4 races, 12 points.
It's not the way they wanted to start their day, and that's going to hurt their chances a bit in this first leg. The only advantage for them is it'll compress when they get to the bottom, because the tide will turn and all the leaders will turn into the tide and stop. So they still have time to catch up in this race.
IRC 5, let's have a quick look at their course before we describe who's at the top of those. With 46 seconds to go. Here's the race course, and they're going up to Ancaster and along off of Bewley and down to Cowes Radio, and then a couple of little bits of knitting around craftinshore.com before heading back to the finish line here at the Squadron. Should be quite pleasant afternoon. If the sun comes out, we're going to see some lovely spinnaker finishes.
That'll be a lovely course for them, and as you say, an absolutely great spinnaker run back down to the Royal Yacht Squadron where they're finishing this afternoon. So really keep your eyes out if you're on the green here in Cowes, because it's going to be a wall of spinnakers coming back towards the Squadron.
Now, the leading boat here is Whooper, which is Giovanni Belgrano's lovely old boat with its Kevlar sails, we have to say, but a lovely old wooden boat. That's Whooper, followed by Winsome in second place.
Now you can see here we go with 4 seconds to go. The class being swept in from left of picture, going downwind. No spinnakers yet, but poles ready. Here we go. We should start to see some spinnakers flying. In fact, as we come in, is that Whooper with the white spinnaker flapping?
So Whooper got the best start out of that. They, although they weren't first off the line, they have their kite set and they're at speed.
There they are, just behind the guy, just trying to set their kite. But there is Whooper with the big goose on the spinnaker, sailing beautifully.
Really nice start from them, really set and powered up as we watch them wash over the start line here.
On handicap, they've had a second, a first, and a first.
Well, that is a commanding series of results for this week. So
here she is with the flying goose on the spinnaker to the left of our picture.
Corrected time again for this class, so it isn't the first on the water winner. This is going to be the corrected time. So again, all variations as we go on board with Whooper.
Giovanni Bergrano, the owner of Whooper, he's not used to, he doesn't really deal in double digits for anything. He seems to be in the chocolates, whatever they do with this boat. Hugely successful boat, won around the island, he's won Cowes Week, he's been winner overall in Cowes Week at least once. It's good to see with such an old boat, but it's beautifully maintained and extremely well looked after and put together.
There's quite a gaggle there by you, Matt, of these IRC 5s.
A great variation. Sorry, Matt, just to cut across you. A great variation in boat types as we look at all the little flat-topped modified 707 just going out of the right of picture, all the way to a big cruising boat, the Dutch boat there on the left.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? It's the first time I've seen that 707 this week, and actually it looks pretty good. With a square top main and an asymmetric spinnaker and a fixed prodder. That's not how it was originally designed, but it certainly looks all right.
They're having quite a good week, and they've been doing really quite well in some of those early beats, so maybe modified 707 is the way to go in future.
Yeah, there were enough of them built, you should be able to pick them up.
On the right of the picture now, Winsome with the big white Jenica.
Looking very light down there for
Second
Winsome,
place.
though, as we go back to Whooper. Pole all the way forwards. Quite heavy boats, some of the bigger boats in this class, and Whooper one of the older boats, so going to be a little bit heavier. You can see them still pole forwards, keeping the pace on, keeping the boat moving as they get through the light stuff, but choosing the southerly route away from the lee of the patrol vessel that we were looking at.
They're certainly sailing well, aren't they, on what is a pre-war car?
It looks like the wind has gone forwards, actually, because as we were looking at some of the other boats, they were much freer at looking at the same position now that Whooper is in. But Whooper, pole all the way forwards, really struggling, but not pointing up to the island shore as much as some of the previous boats. So I think maybe the breeze clocking forward just a little bit as we're watching them.
I think you're absolutely right there, Oscar. I think that's exactly what's happened, which makes that route round to the south even more important, because it just drags you down towards where you need to go. So that's definitely the way to go, that southern route, definitely.
We can see Whooper here with the goose in the middle of picture, and they are right behind where this patrol boat is sitting. So the big channel runs from the patrol boat down at sort of a 30-degree angle across your screen, almost following exactly the line where Whooper is. And as Matt says, staying with that southerly route, just stay in that channel even longer. You can see a channel marker just coming in from right of picture here, the yellow marker with the black top.
I'm actually looking on my the plot of the wind direction on my instruments here, and I can actually see it's in the last 10 minutes on the graph plot that the breeze has gone around 10 degrees to the right. So it's now about 2:30. It started off at 2:20, so it's definitely going around.
We're looking at Cobra, the first 34.7, lying in 4th after 4 races.
You can see them here just getting into the chop. It can often be choppy in the Solent just from powerboats and ferries and all kinds of things going around, but you can see that spinnaker being thrown around. Not much pressure considering what we were expecting, somewhere in the high teens, low 20s according to our wind wizard Fiona this morning. So not quite seeing that in what we're looking at the moment on the racecourse.
Because there's a difference in size in handicap classes. Here's a good example of it, isn't it?
And also a good example of the difference between the asymmetric spinnaker of the white to leeward and the symmetrical of the pink. Look at the pink sat on top of them, able to sail so much lower. You can see this white spinnaker wants to come up, turn towards the bottom of picture, trying to get a bit of pace on as their spinnaker collapses in that dirty air.
There they are. Diminutive, isn't it, in comparison? But Whooper just bowling along very nicely, almost sailing square now.
They've come down a long way to stay in that channel and just get across. Don't forget the bottom mark, Ancaster, is over towards the mainland shore, so towards the left of picture as we look. So they're going to have to cross out over onto the bank. There's a big sandbank that runs down the Solent to the north. So they're going to have to cross over it at some point to find that Ancaster mark. Whooper there, top right of picture, doing really well. You can see them overhauling here. Looks like a Corby touch paper here, sailing really nicely as well, but you can see Whooper just sort of going round the outside, bow forwards, doing a really nice job there.
Yeah, Whooper has a big advantage to see, because 3 firsts and a second to count. Better check our race rules, but I think today we might well see some discards coming up.
I think they should have 1 discard this week, I believe. So if they get a full schedule of racing in, they'll be able to discard 1 result out of their overall week score. So lots of people, as you say, hopefully going to use this race if it doesn't go to plan.
Okay, well that's as I say, the IRC 5 heading their way, and I noticed that Winsome was the Dutch boat went towards the middle of the Solent, Matt, and they look like they're driving away. So Winsome in 2nd place in IRC Class 5 has a bit to catch up with.
Yeah, they've taken a bit of a gamble, taking that northern route, but it is a boat that sails very nicely deep downwind, but I still think that's a bit of a gamble.
Okay, bit of a gamble it is. You're back to the pin end.
Indeed, yes.
The next start.
Yeah, where the tide is still flushing out to the east, and the next start is J70 and SB20s, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Yes, but jointly.
Yes, well, I think that isn't that because the J70s have had their special sort of shorter series of 2 or 3 races a day, and
Yes,
now they
that's
go
right.
back to just 1 race a day, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And actually, I do have some results here. We can just briefly look at those. The short series was won by Vamos, Tim Ryan. Second was Celestial, and Brutus was third. And Vamos, overall, is going to be leading as well. But this will change now today.
Smaller boat here with 2 minutes and 53 seconds to go. So you're going to see them having to work harder. We'll probably see a bigger gap here as we come into the 2.5 minutes. They're going to stay further up tide because although they're light and they can accelerate, upwind top speed is going to be less. So they're going to have to work harder on that early tide to keep themselves clean at this pre-start.
I'm just sitting alongside an Etchells who's just sailing, doing just that, just sailing past the pin end of the line and sailing towards the west. And although they're not in race mode, they're really only making about 1 or 2 knots over the ground. So you're absolutely right. They're going to have to be very careful because whilst, as you say, Oscar, they go quickly downhill and they're going to accelerate in these gusts. And the gusts are, I have to say, getting stronger as well as they're coming through. Getting back up, if you need to go back up tide, is going to be really difficult.
It really is. It's going to be so hard, and you really don't want to be doing it with a minute to go. If you start having to go back upwind with a minute to go, you're going to lose a lot of the ability to find yourself a gap, get positioned for that start. So lots of people hanging back now with 2 minutes, just under 2 minutes, 150 to go. And you'll see them starting to look, as we get closer to the 1 minute, we'll start to see people drifting a bit closer to the line, trying to decide where they want to pick.
Let's have a quick look at the course, Matt, while we're watching this. And this is very different for us. They're all staying to the east, going right down to Greenings off of Leon Solent, back to North Ride Middle, and back to the finish on the straight line.
It's a really interesting course, this, actually, because there's one long spinnaker leg, and then the rest of it is going to be complicated beating as they get back up through the Solent. It's going to be all upwind after they get down to that bottom turning mark. So lots of tactical choices, but they're going to keep getting sucked back together as a fleet every time they have to compress at a mark. So no chance to break away and do something crazy by smashing one corner of the Solent.
The other thing that's going to make their start interesting, which sounds like it's in the minute to go,
yes,
is that as they come down to their line, some of the other classes that are coming out to the start area are going to be coming at them. So their line might be a little bit busier than they'd expected.
Tell us about it. All we can see are Etchells and Darings and a little Flying 15 as well.
Yeah. Well, most of the J70s are all hanging out around the pin end of the line. They're all up tide at the moment. I'm guessing there's about 30 seconds to go. I'm alongside Vamos, actually, who are here, who, as you said, has won the short series. The breeze has now just dropped. The gusts are really quite big, well, noticeable, really. And when there's no breeze, there's really not much breeze at all. And when the gusts come through, it's enough to cause them to broach.
We can just see these J70s coming in sideways left of picture here with 9 seconds to go. So they're sweeping down to the line.
Kites up.
Looks like they're going to be okay. A couple have hoisted early here, but they've got that timed run beautifully.
10:51 got that absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Kites there, and they had the bonus ball of picking up a gust as well that put them on the plane the minute the gun went. A superb start by them.
Escape.
Absolutely shot off the line.
Escape in the J70.
Escapes the fleet here as they shoot out the front. The white spinnaker leading by a commanding margin. Don't forget, all one designs the J70s, so if you have a clean start and you gain 2 boat lengths, that's 2 genuine boat lengths for the rest of this bit of the beginning of the leg. So great advantage by them.
15.91 hot on their tail as well. That advantage of the gust has now dropped. Now they're in a bit of a lull, but it was enough to open up a 4 or 5 boat length advantage over the rest of the fleet. And Vamos, who are the race, who've been doing so well this week and have won the short series, forced to jibe out on port to get some clear air, and that's cost them a lot.
It's going to be really hard to get back into it. You can see the boats at the bottom of the picture here absolutely on a charge. Oh, we've got a crash between a J70 and it looks like a half-tonner, I think. Not sure, but the mast caught on the spreader here of the half-tonner, pulling the boat over. You can see the keel. Hopefully they're going to untangle themselves. That's very messy. They come back up right now, hopefully not attached. Didn't see the beginning of that, so I'm not quite sure what caused it, but very messy between these two boats. Rita for the J70s and
They're still got a sail attached around one of these.
Still interlocked. In fact, there's something over the side here, just to weather. It looks like a jib or a spinnaker. I think it's the J70 spinnaker underneath the bottom of the half-tonner. So there's a bit of, yes, you can see the bow person here pulling the spinnaker back round, trying to get it back on the boat. And that's a terrible start for these two boats. They're going to have to untangle themselves. Not even sure. They're not even in the same class. So bit poor form, really, getting in the way of another competitor's start. So try and keep away from the start line if you're not starting. But we see the J70s and the SB20s here. Look at them now. They've powered up. They're screaming down into the Eastern Solent.
Off like, I think your expression, Matt, is robber's dog. Is that right?
Often used, yes.
Yes, not so good for Rita, though. A bit of a coming together, as you say, between that and a non-racing class.
It's going to be an interesting race, as we were just saying with this course. They're going to have this fantastic run all the way down to the Eastern Solent, and they don't have to put the hard work in until they turn the corner, and then they've got to beat against the tide all the way home. So enjoy this long run down at the beginning, because it's going to be a difficult afternoon for you getting back to the squadron.
Yep, so J70s and SB20s on their way. We're looking at Etchells next, but lovely sight of these J70s coming on the start line. They're normally first away, but they've had a little bit of a lie-in this morning, starting a bit later.
You can see the boats in the background. We were looking at IRC5. You can see that modified 707 just going to the left of picture. So boats, as an SB20 wipes out to the right of picture. Big gust, couldn't quite hold it. They've got it back under control now. Really nicely powered up in these gusts as they sail down off wind to the east.
Yeah, the SB20 is enjoying that. Much bigger kite than the J70.
Great little planing boat too. It'll really get up and go, SB20, when the pressure builds and we get a gust. So they'll have a great run.
Quick mention for what was the one we were worried about. It's Yala Shamal in the sports boats. I looked it up. It means let's go for a northwesterly Persian wind.
Right. It's very specific.
Very specific. I'm sure the translator, but it's a Google translation, obviously.
Yes.
Look at them pick up the speed, though, with these gusts for the sports boats.
And the SB20 going to overhaul that J70 just to leeward of them. So the J70 now going to get a bit of dirty air as that SB20, to be honest, just blows past. It's so much on the plane by comparison to the J70 to leeward of them. Look at them, they're having a great run. Yeah, fantastic.
Perfect for them.
Be a good angle. Hopefully they won't have to do too much jibing. They'll be able to keep this nice hot angle, sailing fast as they go down in towards the east.
Okay, we're coming back to the line for the Etchells at 45 seconds to go. A brief look at their race course. You can see where they will be going. No doubt going down to the east. Here they are. Again, down to Fairhall West, off of Lyon Solent. And then some tacking Jules, South Ride Middle, Royal Yacht Squadron, West Ride Middle, East Bramble, and back to the straight finish line.
Quite interesting again, long afternoon for them. They're going to be quite a few tactical choices, but they're sticking mostly over onto the slightly less tidal side of the Solent, over behind the Bramble Bank. So a little bit less tide for them on their beating legs. Yep. As we come up with 10 seconds to go before the start.
Yep, all sailing well short of the line. That's not a Etchells, but that's an Etchells just looking at sneaking across the line, and they're going to be all clear.
Now Jamie McWilliam here, Mucho Grande, just crossing the line first. Now who can get the spinnaker filled? Because don't forget, a bit like the J70s, all one design, everything the same in an Etchells. So really is a beautiful set for Jamie McWilliam on Mucho Grande. Look at that, kite up straight away and filling. As I say, that commentator's curse, it just collapses, but they are going to get it back under control. Oh, not quite. 14-17 behind them.
China White, Nick Stagg's boat.
Last year's winner, speed, very competitive.
And good boat speed too. Again, showing that out of the dirty wind means you've got boat speed.
And up to weather here, able to roll over Mucho Grande. Look at them taking distance out of them.
And we're talking about identical boats here, so that's all down to conditions and the position you're in.
Bit more puff maybe. Matt was talking earlier about getting the first of those gusts. If you're a southerly boat, China White, bottom of picture here, quite a long way south by comparison to Mucho Grande with the Hong Kong flag, top right of picture. So interesting to see how those two pan out, but Mucho Grande just bow forward at the moment, bow ahead as we look at the Etchells coming down.
Yeah, showing off their nice big spinnakers. That's 09 going by.
Etchells much more used to sailing those classic windward-leeward courses rather than a bit of orienteering that we're seeing today. So it'll be quite different for them compared to what they used to.
4 up most of the day. There's Mano. Andy Beadsworth in No Dramas is lying 3rd overall after 4 races. But mucho grande, you say, Jamie William. Here he goes, 3 first and a 3rd.
He's having a great week, so very much enjoying himself, I think, as these two Etchells come into a bit of a luffing duel. Mano being forced up. You can see the red and white spinnakers in the middle of picture as Jamie William dives off to the left. Look, he's trying to stay out of the lee of the guard ship that we're looking at here, so it'll be interesting to see. He's going to get the last of the puff, as Matt was saying earlier, as Mano is forced up. Can't quite see the sail number 403, perhaps. Both of them. It's still a little bit of a luffing duel.
09. So that's Sumo. Oh no, that's not Sumo. 409 is Aida.
You can see China White. Look, they're pulled back a little bit. They're coming in from the right of picture, sailing down on top of the other two.
Ah, now it hasn't paid off, has it?
It hasn't.
There must be a bit slightly stronger tide, perhaps, out in the middle of the Solent.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Look at that gain as they came out from the back of the guard ship there, Mucho Grande. So really nice sailing from them.
I think what happened there was that there was a gust that came down and it rolled down the north side of the guard ship, and they had a lull to windward. So it was just the luck of the draw in many ways. I mean, we will put it down to skillful sailing, of course.
I'm sure Jamie William won't mind you saying rather lucky than good.
Yeah, well, it was certainly quite fortunate for them that they had that breeze that took them just at the right time around the back of the guard ship at coincidentally the same time that they had a lull, or the rest of their competitors had a lull to the windward side. Rather counterintuitive, really.
It's not certainly the trend we've been seeing, but look how close these Etchells are together. This is sort of classic Etchells racing, all within a few feet of each other, keeping it. You see them sheeting on here in 1409, trying to keep the spinnaker filling as 1490 sails over the top of their wind. Getting a little bit trapped out the back here. It'll be interesting to see if they push the helm over, try and get up. Yes, in fact, they push the helm over a bit now, trying to clear their wind, get a bit of pace, see if they can affect the boats in front of them, get on top of their wind and claw back some of those precious meters.
Okay, well, that's the Etchells underway. We've got some fairly similar sort of boats. I'm sure they won't say so, but we're moving to Darings. But as you say, Oscar, Mick Williams showing how he dominates in the Etchells and looking good for the World Championships a bit later on. Okay, Darings we're looking at now. That's the sails with the chevron on the mainsail. There's a few other classes amongst these boats, and coming down to 1 minute to go.
Really busy. You can see the rest of the fleets have come out now. I think the only fleet we don't have represented here on the start area is the X-boat fleet, but the Darings, as you say, with the chevrons, are quite tall sail plans, trying to stay upwind. They have big underwater area, big long keel on a Daring, so if you turn it sideways to the tide, you're just going to go sideways at a rate of knots. So you can see them all poking upwind.
One or two may have an issue here because the tide is really strong there. Unless you've got a bit of boat speed on, you're going to be dragged down towards that finish.
Exactly as you say, and just behind the Trimaran Debutante that we were just looking at, going sideways in a big way there with 20 seconds to go.
Well, there's a couple of boats coming down. They look a bit early to me by that powerboat.
16 seconds. Oh, I think they might be okay, you know, here. As long as they're sailing, you can see them pushing the helm over, sailing almost directly into the island shore with 6 seconds to go. If they can pull the helm up now, it's going to be a nice start. Looks like number 1, hard to tell.
All clear for the
nice
Darings.
start.
Good start.
2 boats getting the best of it here, absolutely.
Now, who's going to get the kites out first? Here's the course. Very similar for the Darings, all clear. Number 3 has got away. That's Dauntless, and they're lying at second.
And just behind them, Audax doing really well as well. That was the blue hull that we saw coming in off the start, so really nicely done by those 2 boats as they start this race.
The big surprise, though, surely, is that what's they called? John 22, that's leading the series overall, way behind. They were double it, that's it. I think they were caught napping. They made a big mistake there. They're only just getting to the pin end now and only just hoisting their kites. So who knows what happened with them, but I was expecting to see them right up at the front.
Well, the downwind starts then, perhaps showing off some better skills or timing skills amongst the entire fleet, really, because we've seen quite a bit of alteration apart from the Etchells we've just seen. William leading that away.
Colourful spinnaker here on board Audax to the left. Really nice, but you can see them struggling to get it to fill a little bit. They're sailing very deep, these boats. looks like poles a long way back by comparison to some of the other fleets we've seen earlier. So perhaps the breeze has shifted again, Matt. You might be able to tell us.
Yeah, it feels that way. I'm just alongside John Corby's boat, and it does feel like the breeze has gone even more round towards the round towards the west, actually.
Yes, it's softened a bit, and they're waiting for that gust to come out of the Medina. But just looking at the racecourse, Matt, just almost the most southerly boat is Dauntless. The Peckhams, I'm sure their Peckham coach, senior, Giles, is watching that with interest.
It does look very strange, but it doesn't,
You see at the top of the picture, right over the Medina, Spinnaker filling nicely, staying out of trouble.
The whole pack are sailing much, much deeper than, or the rest of the pack rather, are sailing much deeper than we've seen before, and they're not even thinking about the guard ship. It doesn't even feature on their strategy because they're so far to the north. It's very interesting, but there's not much breeze down here. That's the big problem, I think, is that the boats that you're looking at that are in picture, I think, from what you were saying, are getting that breeze first, and that is sort of what you need.
Here's Dauntless, the 3 on her mainsail, as she's blanketed by the Red Funnel Ferry.
Big split in tactics, as you were just saying. You can see Audax bottom left with this colourful spinnaker, but also all the way out here to weather, as just you were pointing out, the line of 2 blue spinnakers and then the white with the cross on it. Really different tactics, staying really close to the island shore for a couple of boats. So it'll be interesting. They're going to have to converge as they get down. The island crops out. They'll all drift back out into the deeper water of the channel. So great to see who's coming out ahead of this shortly.
Yeah, Dance are having real trouble with their kite. That's them with that big wind block called the guard ship.
I think one of the other things that we're seeing here at the moment is certainly, and any of the locals will tell you, and of course Oscar is a local, is just how much the breeze whistles down the Medina, and it just sort of accelerates and gives you that burst. But whether it's worth going up there now and staying up there, because you're not going to get that extra boost of breeze once you get past Norris Castle. In fact, quite the opposite. You may end up in the lee of the headland.
And as we look at the drone shot here, you can see Audax with the colourful spinnaker. I can't remember quite who the red spinnaker was, but the two of these two looking like they're bow forwards on the other boats, taking that southerly track that we were just describing. Looks like these two absolutely flying out here in the channel.
Yeah, good pushing them with good speed. That's boat 12, which is not on our list after all. Okay, we've got a minute to go now to the next start. It's full on here on day 5, the Youth Day. And it's Dragons to get underway now. Here's their race course, heading just to the east, up to Fairhall West, then Royal Yacht Squadron, East Bramble, and back to the finish.
So we saw the green mark on the first upwind turning mark there. So that's the edge of the channel. So they're staying out to the north side in the relatively shallow water behind the sandbank. So a really good competitive beat for them all the way back. Less tidal decision making to be made because less obstacles to go round.
Okay, D on their sail, the Dragons, and the next one's away. They seem to have most of their foresails all nicely furled and making their progress. They look pretty well shy at the moment. One spinnaker going up on the start line is well clear. It's just full of red wings at the moment.
And you can see them having a very conservative start as we come into 10 seconds to go. First spinnaker's just appearing left of picture now. Jibs unfurling. Quite an early hoist actually from this class, but they were a long way up tide.
Oh, very well all clear. Well timed in the Dragon fleet.
Look how they're actually all almost the same at the same line, just spread out across. Although look at on the back left corner of the picture, the flapping blue and white spinnaker there, as they misjudge the distance to the pin end and have to ease the spinnaker to try and get around that pin.
That's Bertie, 763, with the crew just sorting out the spinnaker pole.
Looking very light though, aren't they?
And 767 Firefly pushing along with the red spinnaker here in clear air.
Which is Ecstatic? I haven't got the sail number of Ecstatic.
682.
682, because I think they're leading overall, aren't they, in the series?
They are, yes.
Just seen them, okay.
11 points for them, 2 seconds Sunday and Monday.
Firefly, this red spinnaker just on the right of picture here, doing a really nice job, but looking like they're struggling for pressure here. That might have just been dirty air from a passing boat, but spinnaker entirely collapsing before they get it back under control again. And again, we're seeing this difference in tactics as they've got an extra obstacle to overcome here. The huge red funneled ferry, top left of picture. Which side are they going to go? Because there's going to be a big wind shadow behind it as the wind is sucked along Not much pressure out there at the moment, so that is going to play a factor for them as they get down towards it.
Yeah, could be the boats that are farther north are going to benefit from that, but the Red Funnel Ferry just pushing on with a bit more speed, especially affecting our early leader there.
Yeah, Firefly with the red spinnaker. It'll be interesting to see in a second. I think we'll start to see some of these spinnakers collapsing with that turbulent air coming off the red funnel as it goes into Cowes.
The other thing is that the breeze has gradually dropped as well. I'm just looking at the plot, and where we started off with a sort of an average speed of 10 or 11 knots, not in the gust, now we're actually down to about 8, 9 knots, and you can see it, and these boats are struggling to actually keep the pressure and keep the speed on, particularly as the tide is sweeping them away from the breeze at about 2 knots. So what they're actually feeling on board the boat is probably more like 6 knots of breeze, which is not a lot.
We're looking at Jerboa, and very much a leading light in the Dragon class. It's steered by Gabia Wilkinson Cox. Here she is.
Nicely positioned here, actually.
Yes.
They've got themselves in a little pocket of clear air coming from just behind that blue spinnaker, top right of picture. But they're going to have to contend with the guard ship, which is just coming in there. We can see Jerboa. We can see Blue Bottle here with the blue spinnaker, top left. It looks like they're coming up. They want to be this side of it, but the barge we can just see as well sticking out. So you have to leave a bit more margin.
Yes, very floppy now. The breeze gone very light.
See, very interesting tactic. Look, these two pulling the pole back a long way, trying to get a bit of clearance between them and the lee side of the guard ship, which is off to the right of shot here. So trying to create a little bit of a gap. I think we'll start to see the poles go forwards a little bit to build a bit more speed once they get round the transom.
Interesting, Gabia just ignoring Dreckie down to their port quarter, and she's off to find her breeze, and she's lying in 3rd place overall on 16 points, which is the same as Blue Bottle. So ecstatic, as you say, Matt, just with a 5-point lead. So pretty tight at the top of the Dragon fleet.
Blue Bottle, bottom left pick corner here. The blue hull, blue spinnaker just about to go out of shot. Quite different tactics. Most of the fleet choosing to go that northern route, middle of the channel at the beginning, but potentially paying a price, as Matt was talking about earlier, by not being able to stay quite in the channel later on. So long downwind leg for these boats. They've got a long way to go before they have to turn and come back against the tide. Should do reasonably well upwind as well, with big overlapping jibs that we saw earlier in the week. So they should have quite a nice afternoon of beating back towards the Schrape.
Yeah, Blue Bottle, that we've said all along, that beautifully renovated Dragon has had to count at the moment a 10-point retirement on Sunday. So, yeah, and so too has Gabby Wilkinson Cox, counting at 10. So maybe things will change after today's discards. Just a minute to go then for Flying 15s.
And unfortunately, as we talked about in the Musto show, one boat short today for the Flying 15s, which is a shame. But should have a nice run. Flying 15s do well downwind as we look at their course. A bit of a shorter course for them, down to Little Ship Club as their turning mark. And then again, a long beat back up the Solent with that adverse tide, staying mostly onto the tidally protected northern side of the Solent, where there's a bit of a sandbank, so a bit of shallow water making their lives a little easier.
Nice wide shot of the Flying 15s, and mixed up with some Red Wings and some sonars and some other classes as well. But yeah, the Flying 15s.
The last person you want to be now is just at the right of picture. You can just see a little bow sticking out. In fact, it's just swept off the screen. That boat is probably over the start line already with 8 seconds to go. We go to our line cam. They're facing completely the wrong way. With 3 seconds to go, you can still see them going upwind, just coming out the back of the Red Wing.
Yeah, who made a lovely start, but not yours.
But they've got no speed. Look, they've got no control of the boat as they bear away. It's going to hurt them. They were in such a wonderful position, but the other boat's now screaming down with spinnakers already set. So not working out for them.
3719 is making a very good start. 377, that's men behaving badly. 3779 and 3996.
Great little boats, these, and big spinnakers you can see here. They're getting up to speed, but really tightly bunched. Really surprising to see with that extra tide. Usually expect to see a bit more separation, but really close at the front of the Flying 15 fleet, so doing really well.
Yeah,
but covering each other's wind here. You can see the leading edge of the white and red spinnaker just poking out. In fact, they're just being overhauled now. 3969.
Yep, 3969 is cruise missile.
Nicely positioned. They've got clear air here, but they've been rolled by riffraff here at weather that we're looking at, middle of picture.
Yes, Riffraff actually getting off to a bit of a stormer here, aren't they?
Flying here, you can see the distance building between them and Cruise Missile. Really nicely positioned. Look, that kite pulling beautifully as they head off into the eastern Solent.
Yeah, certainly picking up the speed. Riffraff.
Nice light boats flying 15s, a little bit of drop in pressure, or a little gust, sorry, and they should pick up and get going really quite quickly.
And talking of just that, Rupert Mandarin 3779 did exactly that to your cue, Oscar. Just picked up the breeze, headed up, climbed up a little higher and has got above the fleet. He's not quite got himself up to the front of the fleet, but he's clearly going to get there in the next minute. They've got themselves into a really nice position, 3779 that is. They're now the windward boat. They're getting the gusts earlier. They get the acceleration before anybody else, and he's going to be working his way across the two boats to leeward.
Riffraff having trouble with the kite.
Looks like the whole pole skied there for a second, so not quite sure what happened. Maybe the pole down got let off or something, but that's cost them a lot. Look how the other two boats behind them have closed the gap, and now they're all bunched back up together again. Such a shame. They were doing so well there and pulled out a bit of a lead, so they're going to have to work hard for the next few minutes to try and get themselves out of trouble.
The great thing, badly, yeah.
The great thing about these boats is because they're so dinghy-like, it's very easy to see the amount of effort they're putting in because they have to set them out and hike hard, so you can actually see the physical effort that they're putting into this. And there's nothing quite like a camera boat just to windward of you to inspire you to put in some more physical effort and say, no, I normally hike like this.
People always hike 10% harder when the camera's around.
Get rid of coaches, just put a camera boat there.
As you say, though, Flying 15 certainly upwindy, even more so. Their speed directly proportional to how much your legs are burning. So long afternoon of beating for these boats as they come back up against the tide.
So this is Men Behaving Badly in the foreground. 3969 is Cruise Missile going well. Cruise Missile lying 5th after 4 races. And as well as we said, Riffraff 8th. So Riffraff make a cracking start there.
Pole forward again here. Interesting, we're looking at we can see the breeze shifting around from start to start. Pole quite a long way forwards, keeping the boat speed on. They're all fighting each other a little bit, but none of them really is not being driven up by the leeward boat, who's created a bit of a hole for themselves to keep clear air. You can't quite see them just behind this red spinnaker, just gone out of shot here.
Yeah, Men Behaving Badly, though, in a good position here to get the early gusts. Concentrating on the sailing up both of them, keeping the boat speed going.
3 abreast, that's fantastic as they go down the Solent. Look at them, and both of them actually squeezing now the middle boat here. Can't quite see the sail, there it is, 3969, Cruise Missile in the middle, getting a little bit squeezed there.
Flashback, that's 3819 on their stern with this foreshortened effect with the cameras. Also looking in pretty good shape there. Flying 15s, there we are, look. Men Behaving Badly is just overhauling them now.
Reasonably short run for them here as well. Flying 15 having a slightly shorter course, so they haven't got too far to go down on this first run, and then a beat all the way back on the mainland shore, behind the Bramble Bank.
Did you notice that? Rupert Mander there just ignoring the competition, just concentrating on boat speed and the crew. They're not ever looking over their shoulder at the others. And if you look at the others, they are looking at Men Behaving Badly, saying, why are they going faster than us?
Just focus, isn't it? They're so in the zone. Look at them there with the little puff. Look how they scoot round the front of the other two. They got room here to be able to, as he steps out onto the high side, and look at the distance, taking a couple of feet straight away in that little puff.
Yeah.
Beautifully done.
Almost a boat length ahead now. It's the warning signal for the next start, which will be sonars. Well, that's just showing how it should be done. Now, Rupert looks over his shoulder, but he sees he's in the front.
The job is done, isn't it? There's a good boat length building between him and the trailing boats. So,
and we've seen the scorecard for them. It's a first, and a first.
That's a mighty scorecard. They'll be very pleased with that. But I know the way sailors think, and they'll be looking for another first, I'm sure.
The boat we didn't see in there was Forced Family Fun, which is lying in second place with seconds right throughout. So I'm not too sure what happened to Forced Family Fun. That's GBR 3940. There they are on the far left of our screen. So they're going to have to push a bit to get to second place.
They've got a bit of work to do, haven't they, getting out of that left corner. They're a bit behind. You can see the boats right of picture here in a bit of a luffing battle happening with 3969 forcing them up as they come to the right of shot. The rest of the fleet able to sail a little bit further down inside them, though, so if they get too embroiled in a little one-on-one for no reason, they're going to lose out to the fleet overall. So important to keep that overview picture in Cowsweek.
Yeah, going right through the flying 15 feet. Beautiful winds. We had such good weather this year. 5 days of very impressive winds. I know we had a bit of a delay on one of our days, but we've done well.
We've done extremely well, and even the light wind day that you're talking about turned into an absolutely glamorous afternoon with X-boats down the beach and all sorts. So, yeah, really good weather this Cowsweek. Maybe the commentator's curse because we're not at the end of the week yet, so we'll see how the rest of the next couple of days unfolds.
Plenty of time for that. Plenty of time.
Look at this great shot. Look at these flying 15s all so close together and building a bit more pressure. Look, you can see them almost up on the plane here. Yes. 3819, top right of picture, doing really well.
Flashback.
Sailing a really high course flashback. The other boat's getting down inside them.
Yeah, very good to see. Okay, well, that's the flying 15s off to their flying starts. And men behaving badly, trying to make it 5 in a row and force family fun with a bit of time to catch up. If they want to retain their second, or even their first. So, Matt, what about the tide? Is it still streaking in?
No, well, it's starting to ease off a little bit now. It's still a significant factor, of course, because it's still sweeping the fleet. We'll still be fleeting the sweep.
Yes. We know what you meant.
Well, glad you did, because I'm not sure I did. It's still going to push them down to the east, but not quite. I mean, it's probably only running at a knot and a half. But well, even so.
Yeah, I mean, from our angle on the camera shots, you can see that although they're slowly beating to windward, they're not really making much progress across the ground. So a lot of tide, and when you bear away, like one or two of these sonars, they're going sideways like rockets. So the timing here is what it's all about. And they got 2 minutes to go for their start. We'll have a quick look at what their course is, if we have that. For the sonars.
If anybody was sort of tuned in and wondering why do they start downwind, no one starts downwind apart from club racing. But you look at that tide and you look at how, as you say, Steve, they're struggling to go upwind. Can you imagine what it'd be like if you're trying to get 30 classes off against the tide in this kind of breeze? It would be really, really tough.
It would certainly be very much busier out there.
Yeah, you'd be stacking them all up.
Yes.
You can see here with a minute and a half, just under a minute and a half to go before this start line. We keep talking about this, the boat's trying to stay up tide, and some of these boats here, looking at 614, just behind the trimaran left of picture, barely making against the tide at all. They're hardly going anywhere. So you're going to have to be really careful, even though the tide is slackening off as the day goes on. Just coming up with 1 minute.
Right, now it's down to who turns first. Here's the race course, down to South Ryde Middle, back to Norris, over to the Royal Yacht Squadron, back to the Royal London, up to East Bramble, and to the straight finish line.
And that interesting little dogleg there between South Ryde Middle and Norris, really shifty under the Norris headland there. There's a big hill here on the island shore, and the wind swirls around that corner, so it's going to be really tactically challenging as they beat back up towards the Norris buoy.
Well, one's turned, but no one else is. No one else is following.
30 seconds to go. They're early. In fact, they've stuck the helm back up in the middle of the fleet there, you can see. 613 is that boat number. As the boats start to turn, 22 seconds to go. Couple of people starting to make dives down. Everyone wants to be a little bit closer, but they're sort of sticking together here. No one wants to be the first to go, it seems.
Yeah, pole going up on one of the sonars. Here's the line camera. Oh, and someone is really close. Oh, and a kite going up. That's
5 seconds
too
to go.
early for the kite.
They might just get away with it here because they're still sideways on. They have just about got away with it. Pulling the bow down now, but not a good hook. Look, they're all in strife. The spinnaker's still half in, half out of the boat. There's an Island Sailing Club boat there, the yellow spinnaker we see. Look at them shooting off downwind. They're going to make it. They do make it this side of the pin, and I think that red and white spinnaker we were looking at hadn't realised to get inside the pin marker for the outer distance of the mark. So it looks like they're struggling to get this side of the mark.
Well, that was Fiscal that made a great start in the sonars. That's GBR 609.
They did make a very nice start there, actually. Whilst everybody was fighting in the middle of the line, they just sneaked around the pin end and had some clear air. It's still fairly disturbed there at the moment because they, just to windward of them, they have a wall of sail, but they'll be hoping that they're just far enough down to leeward that they won't get too much disturbance. The danger is if a puff of breeze comes in over the island, which it inevitably will, they're going to be the last to get it.
Yep, Fiscal has dropped their jib. holding out the mainsail now as it goes a bit lighter in front of them. Just farther in, yes.
Sorry, just cut across, you can just see the
Yes.
patrol vessel there appearing underneath the spinnaker, and they look like they're on a transit to be right on top of it, so they're very close. That line, if they project it across, which side are they going to manage to go?
Meanwhile, farther south, Andy Castle's Dolphin, or the Andy Castle's Foundation Dolphin, 602, has streaked into the lead with a nice breeze coming down the Medina, and they're going to be to windward of the guard ship.
Bit of extra puff there, sending them out of the bottom right of picture as we look at it. That white spinnaker doing really well. They've got an absolute puff on as they go out down the southerly route here.
All sorts of trouble. They're back in the middle of the fleet. Some of the Island Sailing Club boats not quite coping with the gusts very well.
Very distinctive though with their bright yellow spinnakers, so you can pick them out of the fleet. You can just see the leading boat, just lost it just behind discard as we look at them, just on the bow now.
Yep.
Nicely gained, big advantage there in that puff. They just managed to pick up a puff and hook into it and gain probably 30 boat lengths on the rest of the fleet.
That's ACF Dolphin, which is in 4th overall. Fiscal that made the cracking start is 3rd overall. That's David Peerless. But the leading boat after 4 races is Simon Clark in Jenny. They got a 1st and 3 seconds, so good position for them. But didn't see them appear in our commentary at the moment. I don't know if you saw them, Matt. Jenny.
What sail number are they?
737.
737. No, I didn't see them actually. They weren't down at the pin. No, they weren't. No.
So ACF Dolphin on the right of our screen.
And look at the fleet position here. You can see the guard ship, top left of picture. They are all the way inshore. They're so far inshore that they're starting to be troubled by other people picking up moorings. And that is the Finnish boat for Cowswick, for when they come back up the direction they'll be finishing over here. But yeah, so far inshore this fleet by comparison, a lot hotter. Looks like the breeze has gone forward a bit, gone a bit further towards the south. You can see all the poles right on their headstays as they look for that pressure.
Yeah, good start then for Fiscal, but it looks like the best place to be was up nearer the south here, nearer the line. Here's 577, that's Pisces.
Going nicely here. You can see 737 just coming up to them. That's the blue coach ship, I think.
That's
Jenny
Jenny.
X.
That is Jenny.
And they're just closing the gap here on Pisces behind them with the other yellow spinnaker. You can see them just coming up, working it up in those light pressure moments.
Yeah, Jenny leading.
Almost running bow astern here. Sorry, Pisces getting a little bit squeezed as Jenny continues to come up. Look, forcing them up, pole right on the headstay.
Yep, but Jenny in first place overall. 2 points behind them overall is Bertie. Oh, and a bit of a approach from that gust.
I think that might have been Jenny and Pisces that we were just looking at, actually, the yellow spinnaker collapsing. In fact, it was those two boats, and we were just talking Jenny pushing Pisces up.
Well, that's the sonars. Exciting stuff it is. We could commentate on all of these races all day, couldn't we? But let's get back to Red Wings being tightly fought. We've got 38 seconds to go on the Red Wings. Enigma is currently leading, having had an average score on Saturday of 1.5 points, but then has won the further 3 races. So Enigma is the boat to keep an eye on for. And we'll keep an eye for its sail number. That's R46.
Right in the middle of the picture here is R46, and one of the things to note about the Red Wings is they don't have spinnakers, so we'll see quite different tactics here, I think, because they're not going to be able to hoist a sail. They simply boom the jib out.
It's going to be very close to the line.
In fact, 2 boats are over, I'm almost sure of it. We cut to our line cam. Yes, look, miles over for 20 and number 2. Beautiful start here, though, for the yellow hull in the centre. That was nicely done. 20 and number 2, both in a world of pain. They may not even get back from there for a good while.
And one of the problems they've got, particularly 20 and now 2, is that they are both windward boats on other starting boats that are coming up underneath them, so they have to give way. And I think they thought they were behind the line, and I'm not sure they've cleared themselves yet.
Well, that's Harlequin, who's flying 8th after 4 races, but a cracking start with the yellow hull of Harlequin.
Really nicely done, but no spinnakers we were just talking about here, so a jib fetch all the way down this this run for them. Harlequin nicely positioned, bottom of picture here. Look, they've got themselves in clean air. They're a bit further inshore than some of the other fleets. You can just see back left of picture the 2 boats that were over still trying to make it back to the start line, and they could be another 5 or 6 minutes probably before they manage to untangle themselves.
Yeah, they'll be lucky to get back before the next start and the next fleet. Well, Harlequin, great start for them.
Such unique looking boats these with their super high aspect mainsails, and they were talking about it being difficult sometimes to trim them earlier in the week. We featured them as a feature class. A bit challenging with their super skinny looking sail plan.
Yeah, so you can see here the check stays all bouncing around as well as the main backstay. A lot of trimming to do on these very aerodynamic boats. And they have renovated the odd one here to the tide here, really ripping down as they get to the guard ship. They have a pretty low rule in terms of sail area. It's 200 square feet, however you set it. And in some cases, someone had a foot square, they put a little model yacht rig on the back of the boat to make up the 1 foot.
These open classes make such fantastic and interesting developments. Sometimes you see the most quirky variations that turn out to be quick. So it's really interesting that the Red Wing fleet has gone in a specific direction. It's clearly the way they think to go based on their class rule.
And it's a great setup down there in Bembridge. They do a lot of their own maintenance, keeps the costs down. They all have their own little green huts down there. But anyway, Harlequin, yep.
Big separation here between Harlequin going out of the right of picture and the fleet all the way down. Look, the blue hull middle left of picture just coming to the bow. They're going to have to heat it up quite a long way to get round as they're swept from left to right across, almost going downwind, almost on the tide alone at the moment.
There's the Red Wing fleet just passing the barge attached to the guard ship. That's a blue hull boat number 4, Rosetta, sweeping past.
Really close though. Look, beautiful class to look at, but also super close racing. You can see 24 and 103 having a good ding-dong right in the middle, just behind our camera boat there.
Yeah, poled out jib there, by the way, which is unusual.
Be interesting to see with that poled out jib if they now try and get low out into the deeper channel to the left.
Just a very good example. You won't be able to see it, but just you were referring to boat number 2 that was over the line at the start, has only just got back to the start line and cleared herself. And so the huge gap. What an illustration of just how risky it is and the price you're going to pay if you're over the line at the start. And what's more, there's 2 other Red Wings that still haven't got behind the line from their initial start.
Yeah, well, they'll be chasing the rest of the fleet all day, no doubt.
If they can see them.
If they can see them, yes. 3:40 it is. There's lovely pictures of the Red Wings and a bit of poling out going on. Not too sure how that's paying off for them.
It's interesting because it's sort of an unusual strategy compared to the rest of the fleet. The rest of the Red Wings here choosing to sail more conventionally, two sail reaching, effectively footing along as they go downwind. So to pull the jib out the other side and boom it out, I'm not sure it's going to gain much advantage unless you want to go completely square to the wind, which at the moment, based on their current heading, you really don't.
Sunbeams next then. And Sunbeams, I'm sure, will be on a very similar course to our other keel boats, maybe a change of buoy for them as we count down for them. Sunbeams, here we go. Sunbeams have the V on the sail.
Again, exactly as we saw with the Red Wings. Look at them struggling to stay up tide. You've got to be really careful not to get swept down, as we just was talking about with the Red Wings. We may even see some when we cut back later to our start line camera, but you might see the Red Wings still trying to make it back to the start. There, in fact, as we discuss it, that Red Wing still out by the outer distance mark, struggling to get home. Oh, a couple of boats over already. You can just see the pink one is going to manage to untangle itself right on the line with 2 seconds to go.
That's a mermaid.
It's a mermaid. It's the wrong class completely.
And there is a recall.
There is that 64. Guns. They're over. They're in for a long 10 minutes as they try and untangle themselves as the spinnakers start to fly. Poles going up. Number 12 here having a nice start at the front, but their pole all pulled back too far. You can see them struggling to get the spinnaker to fly as the bow person pushes it forwards.
They're all struggling really with the kites. The crew's having trouble.
Just getting sorted out now. They're sorting the cheat out.
Number 26, Danny. Number 68, Sky, with a nice twist. It's just popped out.
The boat that's doing really nicely at the moment is number 47, I'd say, the grey-hulled 47. You may not be able to see her, but they started, Kitty, they started very close to the pin end, and just as they started, they got a little gust and accelerated up through the fleet. Actually, the rest of the fleet has now got a bit more breeze, but they were going very nicely.
Now, I'm not sure if a powerboat or something came through just before the start, but it seemed like they started into a bit of chop there. Lots of spinnakers sort of collapsing constantly the whole time, so not sure if it was powerboat or just unfortunate timing, but looking like struggling to set the spinnakers early in this race.
I think the boat we're looking for is Sky, actually, that we mentioned a little earlier, V68. They're leading with 21 points, 1 point ahead of Danny, that's had 2 firsts, a 5th, and a 15th.
So both boats here in shot. Sky with the pink and blue spinnaker in the middle of picture, and Danny just trailing to leeward there with a slightly smaller looking blue spinnaker just off the left of shot.
And Maisie is in 3rd place with 26 points. Maisie is V64.
Great little battle between these top 3 boats as they come down towards the eastern Solent. Probably a similar course that we were just looking at with the Red Wings, I would imagine. Pole forward again.
68 then, this is our leader. 68, Sky.
Sky with a sky-high pole. Very high pole position here. Interesting they're trying to do that. Maybe they think they can get the sail area higher to get the best of the gust, but usually you would see the pole sort of parallel to the deck. So interesting trimming position for them.
Yeah. Well, they're sorting out a bit of knitting down below. Not really particularly bothered.
Maybe it's a class thing, because if you look to leeward 26, they have a similar position, so maybe that's just the way they like to set them here.
Meanwhile, an anonymous Red Wing that is out of vision, fortunately for them, and I'm not going to read out their number, is still trying to get around the pin end of the mark. And they're not the only one. There's another one even further out to sea. God, it's really painful. If you get this wrong, you can spend most of the morning trying to start.
Big puff here looking at number 12. Big bear away for them. Interesting choice of manoeuvre. It'd be interesting to see. I can't see what they're seeing to do that. Why would they pull the helm up like that? Interesting.
Yeah.
Pull back hard. Look at them.
Yes. Perhaps there's something in front of them, or maybe it's the split.
That sky-high pole that we were talking about earlier, though, looking very deep on the spinnaker. It almost looks like the middle of the spinnaker is collapsing. Doesn't look very efficient with that high pole position.
Yeah, especially if you compare it to 26 here. That's Danny. 25 is Query. 25.
Breeze a long way forwards here. Look, poles all the way forward on the headstay.
Yep.
They're basically broad reaching.
Look at the difference between number 12 just in front. That's Argosy with their pole skyward. And 25, Query, pole down at a nice position. They're sat down inside the boat, less windage. I think they're catching up with number 12, Argosy.
And Argosy spinnaker much less stable there as they have that high pole position, much more prone to collapsing. So losing a bit of time here as you see them push the helm over. They're coming up to try and close the gap, be a bit defensive.
Okay, that's 1 minute to go, I think, for our next start. So
fast and furious here at the Yacht Squadron.
Yes, that's the Sunbeams. We're on to Squibs now. Did we ever establish what the true colour of the sail is?
So officially the true colour of the sail is mace colour, not rust or tan or anything else. It is mace. I was reliably poked yesterday whilst we were doing our commentary.
So the mace sail
brown it is then.
Yes, brown it is, yes.
Now, what's interesting is this is a Red Wing here in the middle of the fleet that you can see, but they're definitely on the right side of the start line to start. So I'm not quite sure why they haven't started, because they're clear.
But they're still beating to the transit to the start line.
Yeah, they tried to tack across. I think this is number 27. They tried to tack across and get to the...
Okay, we've got Squib start, Matt, just to interfere, because 3 seconds to go for the Squibs. All clear, well done to the Squibs.
Nice little set here for the green hull leading over the start line.
Aquabat
beautifully. I think doing well class overall as well. Aquabat
yes.
leading class.
Yep.
So commanding performance by them. Although a little bit, you can see the white hull to windward here, just rolling over the top of them. Bit more puff managed to get in the way. The Aquabat suffering a little bit as they end up behind. Buccaneer doing a beautiful job there, rolling over the top of them. Both boats beautifully set. Look, the spinnakers drawing as they sail off into the east, long way ahead of the rest of the fleet behind them. They've done an excellent job in that pre-start sequence.
Yeah, Buccaneer lying third overall. Don't know whether it's husband and wife or brother and sister, but it's Emma and Sam Prime. They won on the first day and then managed fourth for the rest of the week. So on equal points with Pot Black, who's lying second.
And there's the rest of the fleet coming up behind them. You can see catching up, all those spinnakers flying. They're going to be affected by this line of chop that you can see coming through. That's the powerboat line. You'll start to see them bouncing up and down shortly, flogging all the wind out of those spinnakers as the middle two spinnakers collapse here. The blue of IP didn't see it, and here comes that chop we were just discussing. You're going to have to work hard to keep the pace on. Look, the spinnakers, look at the boat. Buccaneer on the right, absolutely being thrown around as they jump through that chop.
Yeah, they kept the kites flying though.
Did well. I think Aquabat got the best of that, actually. They seem to be marginally less affected by it. Both sailing well. Aquabat, look, little squirt now, sailing back underneath Buccaneer. Just getting ahead. You can see them inching forwards.
Yep, just 2 crew on the sonars here. Second smallest, I guess. Squibs, I should say. Thank you.
One of the 2 remaining Red Wings has crossed the line.
Hurrah, well done.
So I just got poked actually to say the issue the other Red Wing is having is that he is outside the outer distance mark, and every time he tacks over to come back inshore, he gets swept down tide. So he's got to get inshore enough to make it back through the start line between the outer distance and the Royal Yacht Squadron. So that's the problem they're having.
Yeah, and the issue with that is that the breeze has swung around slightly more to the west, so it means that when they're sailing upwind to try and get behind the line, they're being pushed out by the tide. They're sort of ferry gliding across the tide, which just pushes them further out. Anyway.
We're still watching the tough battle, actually, between Buccaneer and Aquabat. Buccaneer just pushing forward.
Got themselves a nice little advantage now over Aquabat here. Nice little gap building. Just to see their spinnaker sort of collapsing at the front there. It's still fluky pressure as it comes out of the Medina. We expect to see it swirl around a little bit. Both these boats choosing to go the southern side to weather of the Royal Navy vessel that sat here with us this week. So most of the fleet, actually, I'm just looking out, are all in fact going that side. So fleet unanimous decision to go that way.
And a big cheer.
Oh, finally our Red Wing manages to cross the start line. So excellent. But they're in for a bit of a battle this afternoon to catch up with the rest of their fleet, who's now past Norris and out into the Eastern Solent.
Yeah, HMS 7 is our guard ship. Just most boats now deciding to go to the south side. No one going to the
Some of that will be, as Matt was just saying, with the breeze shifting round a little bit. You get this pole forward, you can really pick up some speed and just take this southerly route and go round it and not have to worry about that wind shadow we've been discussing earlier on in the sequence.
Okay, Squibs sailing away then. We have Seaview Mermaids, another classic Solent class. And here's the Seaview Mermaids with 1 minute and 13 seconds to go.
A couple of boats already trying to get back behind the line. Similar course. We're looking at one long run all the way down East Ryde Middle, tacking up to the Royal Yacht Squadron all the way over onto the mainland shore, behind that bit of sandbank relief from the Bramble Bank, and then across to finish at the Strait.
Here they are then, Seaview Mermaids, very colourful fleet. U on their sail. Ignore the X's. They're the XODs will be starting a bit later.
Great colourful fleet, this, as you say. Every boat seems to be a different colour, which is fantastic. It's like the whole Dulux colour wheel.
Yes, absolutely.
Only 35 seconds to go here, though.
Now, who's going to be closer? There's an orange boat. This is the U6, which is Rosemary. And Rosemary is the leading boat, having had 3 firsts and a 6th.
Look at them struggling to stay up tide of this mark. Sorry, Matt.
Breeze has come up a little bit. Here comes Rosemary going to attack.
13 seconds to go. They're going to have to keep going. They are clear of it, so they'll be okay. And you see them probably pull the helm up with 5 seconds. No, they're going to wait all the way to the gun just to be safe. The boats behind them have already turned, so they're not going to get the best start here.
Ooh, over the line. That's
right in the distance.
Yes, someone doing a Bainbridge Red Wing there. A long way out towards the north.
And I can't read the sail number of this leading boat, but they've unfortunately got a wineglass wrap in their spinnaker, so a really nicely timed start from them, but it's not quite gone to plan as they get that spinnaker twisted.
Serena.
It's just come out now on Serena.
It's number 4.
Yes, Serena.
Really nice from the class leader here, the bright orange boats in front.
After all that, Rosemary didn't really, they were very hesitant there, but they're up the front.
Is it orange or peach? I can't decide. Maybe peach, I'm going to say.
I'm still trying to figure out who, because there's an individual class recall flag flying at the moment. So who was it? Who was
over your shoulder. They're well to the north.
Well, they'd be outside the line, so they. Okay, right. I'm with you. Follow. Copy.
We go on board here. Number 9. is
Sheen. A shade of yellow.
a shade of doing nicely though. So 4 on the left here got the best start, but had that Spinnaker wrap, and they're a little bit trapped now by Sheen, the yellow boat, in middle of picture. They're going to have to sail a bit deep, get their wind clear. And you can see Sheen just edging round them little by little, getting ahead. Looks like they're all favouring this southerly route. We see the guard ship coming in to the right of picture just here as they sail round it, staying to the south.
Yep. Well, there's the yellow hull. Ben Hugh Brown. Looking good. Lying second.
Still
12
light though,
points.
isn't it? Compared to what we were
It is.
expecting in
Yeah,
the
it's
Musto
gone really
morning
soft.
briefing, it's gone really soft. It's gone forward a bit as the Spinnaker slightly collapses on Sheen there, looking for that power still. So they've got a bit of a challenge to get down here.
Just out of our shot there, but a little bit back. Yes, this is Rosemary, the orange boat, U6.
Looks like they've got a problem with their pole downhaul. They've got someone on the bow trying to sort it out. They have now dealt with it, so Spinnaker is back flying again, but you can see the boat behind them, U8, coming up nicely, pushing forward with that pole all the way on the bow. Bluebell looking like they're going to just hook under them, and I don't think they'll be able to get through them from there.
What we can't quite see, if we can pan a little farther left, is a boat with a blue Spinnaker on the southernmost side, and there she is. And that looks like U7, that's Zara. Zara's looking quite nice there.
Taking the very inshore route, so interesting. You still see that tide on the buoy going through just behind the boats here, still sweeping the boats down. They're all in good tide, but the fleet quite tightly bunched in this southerly route. They're all choosing to go the same way.
Now, the boat we were looking for as well is in third place, U5, Jade. Didn't see them. U2, Cynthia there at the front, and U22, Dragonfly.
A couple of boats really struggling to get the Spinnaker set. Dragonfly specifically, we're just talking about here with the blue and green Spinnaker, bottom right of picture. Lots of problems keeping that Spinnaker flying. Seems to be collapsing a lot. They're all coming up, trying to get a bit more pace on, get in the right position as they come down into the best of the tide at the bottom of the corner here.
Oh, it's a better view now. We can see that blue hulled and blue Spinnaker. U7, Zara. Zara's lying fourth after 4 races. Pretty tight at the front.
It's very tight in this fleet, isn't it? Again, all one design, club owned, so just you get whichever boat you get for the season. You don't have to own your own boat, which is fantastic.
So, that's our mermaids. And 1 minute to go now for the victories. And Matt, black hulls for the victories.
Yes, I was just contemplating, just looking at the Seaview Mermaid that is still trying to get behind the line.
Oh yes.
And this is wise words that that have come far too late to be of any use whatsoever. But it now occurs to me that the people who found themselves over the line at the start appear to have it in their minds that they need to go outside the top of the outer distance mark to start. And they don't. They could actually just sail across towards you guys at the squadron end where there's less tide, which would mean they could get up to the line quicker. They don't have to go around the ends, and they're making life hard for themselves by trying to do so.
They just tacked onto starboard, but I don't think they're going to lay that mark again.
No, and they don't need to. They can just sail the wrong side of the mark. So long as they get themselves behind the mark, that'll be fine. But anyway, the victories are about to start.
All clear on the victories, and the gun goes. And, ooh, that's a nice start by up with the kite as they cross the line.
They're sort of hiding, almost stealthy there,
Yes.
just to windward of the line, but they've done a nice job of setting here. Multicoloured yellow Spinnaker.
It's number 78, that's Ziva.
78 got the best start by Mars, and exactly that. It was sort of a stealthy start, starting just to windward. But yeah, and also a nice big gust has just come down, and it's about 12, 13 knots of breeze. And it's actually pulling the boats that are further behind up towards the front runners.
Well, they've got an enormous, what a lead that is at the start. Look at the, there must be like 8, 9, 10 boat lengths.
Yeah, they were coming in on a reach, and so they accelerated in the gust, put the kite up, and some of that was very good timing and very good planning, and some of it was just old-fashioned luck.
You can't beat a bit of luck there, 78.
And you can see the fleet here spread quite a big distance left to right across the screen as we look. So quite different choices in tactics. We've got a couple of boats up here, top left of screen, who are going to choose to go all the way inshore, breakwater style, up on the southerly route, and a couple of boats all the way down here, the black and white Spinnaker just shooting out a shot on the right-hand side. They're right out towards the north.
Here's Zilch in the screen, number 75. She's leading overall, having had 2 firsts, a second and a third. That's Nick Benham, Ian Perryman and Clive Good in 75 in the middle of our screen. Just checking down our line winner, Ziva, 778, who's lying 5th overall.
They're coming down with a bit of puff here. You can see they're making really good progress. Spinnaker just collapses on Ziva as we look at them, of course, because that's the way it always goes. But bringing the pressure with them, the Victory fleet, as they sail down towards the east of the Solent.
Z69, 469. I thought they were at second, but Zinnia, Team Scammell. You can also report that Amethyst has started now in the Mermaids. They made it round the mark. Remarkable difference between these fleets now, isn't it? These boats compared to what we were watching earlier, you know, the SP20s.
Yeah, well, so this is the more classic symmetrical Spinnaker that we were talking about earlier, and they can go deeper against the wind, but they don't get up and plane like a modern sports boat. So they've got a slightly longer run, tides under them for this first half, and a nice little run down into the eastern Solent before that long beat back. And it will be a long beat back for them. They're not super fast boats, all I think pretty much one design for the Victory class.
Yes, very
some
much so.
small tweaks, but
Very
they're
much
not
indeed.
they're not designed as super speedy upwind boats. So they're going to have a close but long afternoon of fighting their way back up towards the Royal Yacht Squadron.
Yes, they have to ask permission to change things. You can see that there are wooden booms and wooden masts.
Beautiful classic shape.
Oh,
Nicely settled here too. Look, they've got good pressure. They're out in good tide, sailing down towards the east. Got the rest of the fleet behind them, so in a controlling position at the moment. For 87. 78 even, my bad. Ziva.
Yeah, looking good. Clean decks on that boat. Maybe that might be one of the fiberglass ones.
Could be.
There is a fiberglass one.
There have been a couple of new builds.
Yes.
But yes, a beautiful classic shape, but wet when the breeze builds, so nice today. Should be nice flat water for them this afternoon, so they'll have a relatively, I mean, when I say relatively dry day.
So Ziva still hanging on to that lead from that marvellous start. And 75 on the far left here, who's our fast leader, Zilch. He's got a bit of work to do there.
It is, and it's interesting, as the breeze has slightly shifted here, the guard ship has become completely irrelevant to most of these smaller fleets that are starting. They're starting so much further south that they naturally come south, and we don't have to have that big debate about which side are you going to go and are you going to lay it on the tide, because they're all coming up towards the island shore, picking up the best of those puffs coming out of the Medina and then shooting off down towards the east.
Yeah, this is 77 Pelican in the foreground. There's 75 in the background, which is Zilch.
Really nice and
Class
close.
leader.
Look at them.
Yes, and 80 Shearwater 2. It's lying 4th overall. So, Matt, there was some talk about having the X1 design start the other way, heading west, but at the moment they're all well to the west.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that would be interesting because the tide is. You could ignore my earlier comment, probably did, earlier comment of, oh, the tide's easing off, because actually that was incorrect. It's not. It was, I don't know why it looked like that from the angle I was looking at, but now I'm alongside the buoy in my position on the end of the line. It definitely hasn't eased off. It's still pushing at sort of 2 knots to the east. So I think the XODs would find it very difficult getting upwind at the moment and going west. So I can't quite see the flags on the shore, but I'd be surprised if they swung the start sequence around.
We're having a nice close-up look at a Victory, just checking their varnish. Make sure that you can see the brush strokes on the varnish on the side of the this boat, Pelican 777. But the helm and the crew quite rightly ignoring the camera and concentrating on the boat in front, which is still 78 Ziva.
Doing well here, though. You know, they're nicely pressured up, and you can see the The Spinnaker Tower and the mainland on the left-hand side there, sailing over. They've got to stay in that channel that runs down the right of picture for as long as they can, stay in the deep water, and then make their way over onto the bank.
Yes, the Red Funnel ferry making an early break out of the Medina. The 12:30 one is making an early start, so they get out of the way that the fleet starts. They do listen to the radio, and they do listen to what's going on, and try and time it so they don't interfere with the racing. Nice for them to do that.
3.5 minutes to go coming up for the X-boats here. We look at their course. So
up to Ancaster.
Interesting,
yes.
down to Ancaster,
yes.
up to Royal Thames. So some beating happening in the Eastern Solent. They'll be out of the worst of the tide here. The Western Old Hamble Yacht Services at the top there, and then finishing down here on the Schraipe. So actually going to the east, which is a surprise from what we were expecting.
Yeah, big fleet, of course, biggest fleet here, the X1 Designs. Let's have a look at see who's been doing well in the X-ODs. John Tremlett, unsurprisingly, up there, Portsmouth sailor. John Clark, who we talked to earlier in the week, Matt spoke to Tortoise. And it's Claire de Lune.
The owner here, just on the bottom right, you can see them still trying to keep the speed on. They've eased sails a little bit, trying to get the boat moving, staying up tide. Most of the fleet hanging around just towards the outer end, towards the pin end of this line. You see a boat in the background there doing a big two-sail jibe. Can't quite read the number. Coming back round, having another look at it, but again sticks the helm over straight away, right in the middle of picture with their jib flapping. Just want to keep going to the west to start with. We've got 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go before this start. They're all a long way up, these boats. They've got plenty of distance between them and the start. But if the wind drops, they'll start going sideways really fast. So conservative for them with 2 minutes to go.
I think the boat to keep an eye out for is John Tremlett, who Steve was just saying is leading overall, and not just leading overall, but, well, actually he is only 3 points ahead, but he is the boat to beat, and that's 91, and I can see him. It's a white hull.
In the middle of our picture now.
Excellent. Yep. So he's the guy to be watching in particular. And then John Clark in Tortoise, who was over the moon just to won one race in a long career of sailing XODs, and he's just storming it this week. He's only 3 points off the overall lead, but I don't know what Tortoise's sail number is.
165.
Okay, so 91 and 165, I'd say, were the two to keep an eye out if we can.
So coming up to the 1 minute gun here, we can see the fleet. Big fleet, as we were saying, 45 plus boats. So should be a really, really good start. It's going to be a wall of spinnakers as they come down. But again, like we've seen with the other starts, we're not expecting them to hoist particularly early. Maybe with 10 to 15 seconds to go, we'll start to see those boats putting spinnakers up. You can still see the tide, there, just on the yellow buoy at the bottom. You can see the trail of water as the tide sweeps past the mark there. So the tide very much sweeping towards the camera position as we look upwind.
John Tremlett just jibed around now. He's lined up actually with the pin end, and he's sort of, second most closest to the line at the moment. He's under a wall of sail there. I can just see him looking out under the boom and looking down towards that pin end. He's in a good position so long as he can find some breeze.
35 seconds to go, just coming up now. We can see the fleet just coming in from left of picture. We've got our line painted on there in the middle. The yellow mark, down tide of it. 30 seconds, we can still see. Look at the boats now. They're pointing almost at the shore, but going sideways. I can't read the sail number. Whoever that is closest, looks like they may be 98. Oh, looking a little early, 15 seconds.
Tremlett's looking very good here. He's very relaxed about this. He's got clear air. He's down at the leeward end. He knows he's got a wall of woodwork above him.
10 seconds, 5 to go. Oh, it's going to be close. And somebody was over, I think, at the end. No?
All clear.
All clear called. What a fantastic start from the X-boat fleet. Look at that. Whoever the wooden hull is, just at the out of the pin end, definitely getting the best of the start as we see the sail number 117.
117, the X-ray.
Absolutely nailing that start, right on the money.
And there's another one started just outside them as well, looking very good. If only they could find some air. Number 58. 27.
58 going well. Nicely filled pink spinnaker and pulling out a little bit of a lead here.
58 doing really well on that on this side.
Mayfly 161 also looking good. 117.
58 is Madeline out in front with the pink spinnaker at the moment. You can just see them. There's a couple of boats having a bit of a ding-dong on the bottom right. Number 9 and number 27 here jibed off. So they're going out to the north here, but so far we haven't seen that pay off in some of the other fleets, so maybe that's a bid for clear air rather than a tactical decision. They didn't feel they have any choice.
I think it is, Oscar. I think this is the first fleets that we've seen, as you've said, that we've really seen this en masse, and the reason is because those that are close to Medina are all stuck in A, very little air, and B, stuck in each other's breeze. And the boats that have jibed off out here have actually got a really nice puff that's come around the end from Gurnard, and they are just sailing away from the rest of the fleet. I'm just looking to see if John Prentice is in there. He was 91, wasn't he? I can't quite see him. I think he is. Yes, he is in that group, but he's not actually leading the fleet at the moment.
Big choice then to head north. A load of boats going that way now. Real big split in the X1 design fleet.
So Mayfly just here in the back of shot, 161 sailing out on this starboard tack. So they're still coming up here towards the island shore. We can see 58, who had one of the best starts, Madeline. She's still leading the fleet on the south side, but a big split here. You can see half the fleet going off at the top left of picture. That's the southern route, and then the other half of the fleet have jibed and are now coming to the northern route. Can't quite read the sail number of this multicoloured spinnaker bottom left of picture. Serena
94,
leading the fleet, the northern charge, to see if they can make up the ground, having been forced off after the start due to clear air.
They are definitely, that pack that you've just described are definitely leading the race at the moment. I know it's only a few minutes into a race, it's going to be several hours, but they are actually pulling out a lead over the rest of the fleet. It's going to be very, very difficult for the rest to get back.
They're nicely powered up here as we go on board with them. Look like they've got plenty of pressure. It'll be interesting to see how far they go to the north, because at some point they're going to want to jibe and stay in this deep channel that runs down the side. You can just see the corner of the Isle of Wight here, the Norris corner just appearing on the left of picture. So they're going to want to jibe over at some point and stay in this deep channel. Looks like a puff coming up in on the boats inside them, between them and the pilot boat sat there, the Royal Navy station vessel. You can see them getting a bit of extra pressure scooting down inside the boat we're looking at.
There we are. That's the other half of the fleet, deciding to stay south of HMS 7. And
it'll be interesting to see how this plays off.
Yes, it is. It will be.
You can see
161.
Still super close as well, this one design hull, keeping it really close. Quite small spinnakers though on the X-boats, so they've got they got it right today. They don't have to fight that tide with their small spinnakers.
It seems that they like to do, like the Finns, they like to lean to windward, going downwind. Slightly less wetted surface area, I suppose, if they're going to do that.
And you can see, as Matt was talking about there, look at the gains that we've just seen. This southern bunch in the back right of the shot, just coming out the back of the station vessel. You can see how much they've lost here as the leaders now from the northern side, picking up that puff and leading the fleet off towards their downwind mark.
Fine shots from the above as well. Fleet, of course, much more spread out from this kind of angle than they are down on the water. Look at the tide by the cardinal mark here, top right of your screen, still heading eastwards at quite a rate of knots.
And this will be interesting when they get to the bottom. We've seen this with the pre-start, with them having to get round the pin, or thinking they have to get round the pin. You've got to make sure you get the judgment right on the bottom mark as well, because it's perfectly possible to drop too late, get swept past it, and then have to beat up against the tide for a whole bunch of extra distance that you just need to do. So a long afternoon of tactical choices for all these fleets.
Yes. Well, we'll continue with our coverage here. What is that? Number 27 was looking at Estelle, just behind the multicoloured spinnaker here. It's looking nice.
Nice pressure. It's built a little bit more here. Seems like the northern route having a little bit more puff than we've seen in some of the other classes. We saw the Dragons earlier really struggling to get their spinnakers to fill as it went light, but X-boats rolling 91 in the middle there, having a nice little roll as the breeze. They get a puff and head off downwind.
That's Astrolita.
Doing well in the middle.
So 119, 156. All these XODs having a great day. Lone Star, and 156 is Gleam. And 165, which we mentioned earlier, that's Tortoise, who's lying in second place. John Clark. A
couple of boats, you can just see 58 here putting the pole forwards and luffing up to weather of 33, just in the middle of picture. Just wanted to clear their wind by the looks of it. Getting over to that left-hand side.
Well, I think we're just about running out of room here now, and batteries, and perhaps voices as well. I think it's time for a cup of tea. So Oscar Mead and Steve Banksell on the platform here at the Squadron, bringing day 5's, the commentary on the starts anyway, to a close. Great stuff too, fantastic. All those downwind starts, lovely to see. Not often you see that in yacht racing, but here we are. This is very much a Cowes week. So yes, from Oscar and Steve, it's bidding you a good afternoon. Don't forget, of course, today at Cowes is a bit later on YouTube. Join us with that on the YouTube channel. But for now, let's say good afternoon.